Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is a story about what if Naruto starts his journey from Pokemon. Before I start, please support for more amazing content and do consider subscribing to my channel and share this video with your friends. This is written by OTIN 999, link in description and support writer. Let's start the video. Sunlight filtered through the trees covering the village of Konohagakure as villagers started to spill into the streets on their way to work. However, in a large house just outside the main part of the village, a figure slowly made their way towards one of the closed doors. Taking small careful steps, the figure reached the door and slowly turned the handle, giving the door a light push to open it. The old wood creaked and the figure froze, thinking they had been heard. Holding their breath in fear, the figure waited to be discovered. The figure released the breath when they heard the gentle snoring of the room's occupant. Careful moving around all of the scattered clothes, books and toys, the figure made their way to the bed. The only visible sign of the occupant was spiky blonde hair coming out from the covers. The figure took a large breath when it got to the bed. "Wake up, Oni-chan." "Ah." Midou Namikaze giggled as she watched her brother Naruto roll off the opposite side of the bed from her. The 8-year-old girl had dark red hair like her mother and wore matching pink pajamas with jigglypuffs on them. "Everyone is downstairs and Ka-san said you need to get up so you can help set up for the party." Naruto Namikaze rose up from the ground and glared at his little sister over the bed. The 16-year-old was shirtless and wearing only a pair of boxers. "You are so dead, Midou." The little girl laughed loudly as she ran out of the room as fast as she could. Naruto sighed and stood up from the floor. He let out a yawn as he started rummaging around his room for clothes. After a few minutes of searching, he found a plain black shirt and blue sweats. Walking down the stairs, Naruto heard voices and light laughter from the kitchen. Walking around the corner, Naruto smiled when he saw his whole family sitting at the table. A few Pokemon roamed around the kitchen as well. At the stove was his mother, Kushina Namikaze, a top coordinator and winner of several grand festivals. Kushina was known for being one of the few people who had raised every evolution of EV, the evolution Pokemon. Naruto knew she was not just a top coordinator, but was very skilled in battle as well. Her Pokemon were especially dangerous when working together. She had a slender but feminine build, fair skin, violet eyes, fiery red hair, a common trait among the members of the Uzumaki family, with strands that framed both sides of her face and a black clip that parts her hair to the left, keeping it out of her eyes. She generally wore the same outfit consisting of a high-collared, sleeveless blouse under a long, loose-fitting green dress. His father, Minato Namikaze, sat at the table talking to Naruto's grandfather Jiraiya Namikaze. Minato was the champion of the elemental region, where they lived and specialized in not only dragon-type Pokemon, but ones that were all faster than others of their breed. People dubbed him Konoha's Flash Trainer because of that, and Naruto had to admit his father's Pokemon were extremely fast. Like Naruto, his father had blue eyes and spiky blonde hair, though his was longer than his son's, and had jaw-length bangs framing either side of his face. Fair-skinned like his mother, Minato was in a dark blue long-sleeved shirt and black pants. His white short-sleeved jacket hung off the back of his chair. Jiraiya Namikaze chuckled at something his son said and was ideally petting his Toxicroak, which was eating food under the table. Jiraiya was one of the elite four of the region that specialized in poison-type Pokemon. Naruto found it hilarious the man's son was technically his boss. He was a tall man with waist-length spiky white hair usually tied back into a ponytail, with two shoulder-length bangs that framed both sides of his face. He also had red lines that ran down from his eyes. Jiraiya wore a green short shirt kimono and matching pants, under which he wore a mesh shirt that showed out of the sleeves and legs of his outfit. "Well, look who's finally up." Everyone turned to see Naruto walking into the kitchen as his grandmother Tsunade spoke. She was a light-skinned woman of average height with brown eyes and straight blonde hair. Her hair is waist-length with shoulder-length bangs framing both sides of her face and the rest pulled back into two ponytails. She wore a grass-green haori with the kanji for gamble written in black on the back, inside a red circle. Underneath she wears a grey kimono-style blouse with no sleeves, held closed by a broad dark bluish-grey obi that matches her pants. Tsunade was the best medical professional in the elemental region, possibly the world, as she knew how to care for both humans and Pokemon. "Don't let him get me, Ba-chan." Midou whispered loudly as she climbed into Tsunade's lap. The blonde woman chuckled. "Just you wait, little one," Naruto said as he took a seat at the table. "Ba-chan won't always be there to protect you." Midou stuck out her tongue at her brother and everyone chuckled. "How did you sleep, sweetie?" Kushina asked as she brought him a plate of food. "Fine, Ka-san," Naruto said before digging into the warm meal. "Ready for the party today?" Jiraiya asked as he ruffled Naruto's hair. "I remember the day me and Tsu-chan got our first Pokemon." The older man looked down at his Toxicroak. "Croak." The frog-like Pokemon said cheerfully, then went back to its food. "I want a Pokemon," Midou said with a pout. Tsunade combed the girl's hair. Now Mito-chan, you know you can't get a Pokemon until you're 16 like Naruto-kun. Tsunade informed the young girl, unlike many of the other regions the elemental region had different rules for when children could go off on their own. You can play with mine and Ka-sense as much as you want until then. Minato said as he reached to his belt and unclipped a Pokeball. Why don't you go get changed and then go outside to play with Hydreigon? Mito smiled and leapt off of Tsunade, grabbing the Pokeball before running up to her room. She's going to be more of a handful after Naruto leaves. Kushina said with a sigh as she sat down at the table. Should have taken my advice. Naruto said between bites of his breakfast. Tsunade and Jiraiya exchanged a confused look. What advice was that? Jiraiya asked. He suggested we get a Ditto to transform into him to keep Mito in line. Minato replied with a grin on his face. He was tempted to go out to find a Ditto right after Naruto said the idea, but Kushina stopped him. Jiraiya and Tsunade laughed together while the older man ruffled Naruto's hair. So what's the plan for the day, Naruto? Jiraiya asked casually as he stole a piece of bacon. He's going to help his parents clean the house and get everything ready for this afternoon. Kushina cut in before the boy could speak. Yeah, that's what I'm going to do. Naruto responded in a defeated voice. Why do we have to have the party here? 1. Well, the clans have large compounds, they don't have the space we do. Minato began. 2. Most of the clans don't want a bunch of people loitering around their houses, especially when said people also breed Pokemon and might look for secrets. Would they really do that though? Naruto asked curiously. His friends were mostly the children of clan leaders and he had met all their parents. To him they seemed like good people that wouldn't do something like that to fellow villagers. Minato let out a sigh and scratched his head. The clan leaders probably not, but a member might sneak in while the party's going on and do it. Then they could use the secrets to improve their Pokemon and get in the clan's good graces. He had seen it happen before and not just in Konoha, as the regional champion he dealt with such issues. And since we don't have such things, I offered our home for the party. Kushina said as she finished her food. Now we have a lot to do and I want to have enough time to shower before everyone starts to arrive, so let's get to work. And that's my cue to disappear. Jiraiya chuckled out as he rose from his chair. I'll be back later, come on Hikageru. Crow. They frog-like Pokemon chirped as it hopped after Jiraiya. Don't you dare forget it, Jiraiya. Tsunade called out after he husband. Naruto raised an eyebrow to emphasis on it. Jiraiya turned around and placed his hand over his heart. Su-chan, how could you possibly think I would? He replied dramatically. Forget in fun, Kai will be using you as a doormat. Tsunade threatened, making Jiraiya go pale. He had seen Tsunade's Torterra destroy rocks with ease. Right. Jiraiya stuttered out, taking a big gulp. He ran out the door, Toxicroak following suit. What's it, Ba-chan? Naruto asked his grandmother curiously. The woman gave him a smile and patted his cheek. Well, I'll be off too. I need to check on some patients before the party. Tsunade said as she hopped up, leaving a confused Naruto. Wait, what's it? Ba-chan. Naruto jumped off his chair and followed after his grandmother, while Minato and Kushina chuckled at their son. They knew Naruto hated secrets. So what did they get him? Kushina asked quietly as she started to clear the table. No idea. Minato replied as he began to help his wife. They won't say but told me Naruto will love him. Kushina puffed her cheeks in mock anger. Like Naruto, she didn't like secrets, and the fact Tsunade and Jiraiya wouldn't tell them what Pokemon they were giving Naruto, as his starter didn't sit well with her. And you couldn't get it out of your father? How exactly would I do that? Minato asked with humor in his voice. The only way would be to get him drunk, and no one but Ka-san can outdrink him. I would have been passed out on the floor before he was even close to talking. Kushina chuckled a bit before she let out a sigh. True, still wish I knew. The Redeed said as she placed the dishes in the sink. What did you want to get him before Jiraiya asked if they could? Well, Kingu had some children, so I was thinking a Horsia, that way he has a water and eventually a dragon type. Minato replied as he turned on the sink, ignoring Kushina's chuckle. It still gets me you named a Horsia Kingu and didn't know it was a girl. Minato blushed at his wife's laughter. He was still embarrassed by the fact and wanted to change the name, but the Horsia had grown attached to it by the time he realized his mistake. But that was a sweet idea. She said as she gave him a kiss on the cheek. She started on the dishes as Minato went to check on Mito before they started getting ready for the party. The Namika's home was full of activity as the last of the guests arrived. Tables were spread out in the backyard around the large pool Minato had built for training and enjoyment. Some of the teens were swimming while the parents all stood around talking about the latest gossip and news. Kushina. The red-deeded woman turned to see her best friend, Makoto Uchiha, walking toward her with her son Sasuke in tow. Maiko-chan. Kushina cheered as she pulled her friend into a hug. I almost thought you weren't coming. She replied with a pout. Yes well Fugaku may not like Minato, he should know I'm not letting Sasuke miss this. Makoto replied with a smug look. Kushina chuckled and nodded. She knew Fugaku didn't like Minato simply because he had beaten Fugaku in the league championship when they were teens in the second round. How are you Sasuke? Excited to start your journey? Kushina asked the young teen. Yes ma'am. Sasuke replied emotionlessly, he had no problem with Kushina but wasn't one for conversation. Well go join your friends, Ino and Sakura are in the pool. Kushina replied with a grin and suppressed a chuckle as Sasuke went pale. Everyone in Konoha knew about the girl's crush on the young Uchiha and no matter what Sasuke did he could get them to leave him alone. Thank you. Sasuke grumbled out and took a deep breath before he headed towards the others. Makoto sighed as he walked away. Even though I've done this before it doesn't get any easier. The raven-haired woman turned to her friend. How are you holding up? I'm nervous and sad, but I know he'll be fine. Kushina admitted as she looked over at Naruto. I'm going to miss him so much. I sat in Itachi's room every night for a month after he left. Makoto said as she rubbed her friend's back for comfort. Plus you have Mito so it won't be that bad. Right? Kushina replied softly. Come on let's go talk with everyone else. Kushina took Makoto by the hand and led her over to the other adults. Hey Sasuke. Naruto said as he saw the Uchiha walking over. Didn't think you would make it on the count of your dad holding a grudge. Ha-sen changed his mind. Sasuke replied with a smirk, he loved his father, but sometimes the man was stubborn. Sasuke wouldn't admit he was a lot like his father though. Shikamaru, Choji. Sasuke said with a nod to the other boys. Hey munch Sasuke. Choji replied through as he devoured a bag of chips. Sasuke. Shikamaru said without looking up from his shogi board as he thought out his next move against Naruto. So you still think you're getting a Charmander? Naruto asked curiously, like most of the clans they received a Pokemon that was bred by the clan. Sasuke's family breed mostly fire types with Charmander being the most popular to give as starters. I'm almost positive, I checked the breeding charts and they are the only ones young enough to give me. Sasuke said as he sat down at the table. I've been studying our books on them and will have mine full evolved in no time. The Uchiha said with a smirk. Sure. Naruto replied with a wave of his hand. Sasuke always tried to rile him up but it only worked occasionally as they had different goals in life and Naruto didn't see them as rivals. Of course you will because I won't have advanced knowledge like some people. Sasuke narrowed his eyes at Naruto and mental counted that as a win for Naruto. What do you think you'll get Naruto? Shikamaru asked as he took one of Naruto's pieces. Not sure since my family doesn't breed anything but Toussaint was talking about Kingu being pregnant so I might get a Horsia. Naruto shrugged out as he studied the board. Sasuke-kun. The Uchiha's eyes went wide when he heard the voices and he tried to get up and run but was caught from both sides by Ino and Sakura. Both girls were dripping wet and Sasuke scowled as his shirt started getting wet. I'm glad you made it Sasuke-kun. Ino said with a big smile as she squeezed the boy's arm. Not as glad as I am. Sakura said from his other side, copying Ino's actions. Naruto, Shikamaru and Choji all chuckled as they watched Sasuke's scowl deepened. Hello, Sasuke-kun. Hinata Hyuga said quietly as she, Kiba Inuzuka and Shino Aburam all came over to the table. Hinata. Sasuke said with a nod to the girl, she was one of the only girls their age he liked because she showed no interest in him. Shino, dog breath. But. Kiba replied automatically as he sat down near Naruto. So what were you guys talking about? What starters we might be getting? Shikamaru said as he again took a piece of Naruto's, making the blonde groan. Sasuke is pretty sure he'll get a Charmander, Naruto might get a Horsia. Did Kingu have her babies? Ino asked with a smile, besides wanting to be a breeder like her family, she wanted to study medicine like Tsunade. She was her unofficial apprentice until she got some experience on her journey. I think so. Toussaint didn't say which makes me think that's what I'm getting. Naruto replied as he concentrated more on the board, trying to beat Shikamaru. I'm not sure what I'll get. Ino said in reply. We've had a lot of babies in the past few months, so it could be any psychic type we breed. She finished with a sigh. I don't have any idea either. Sakura said from Sasuke's side, her family operated the Pokemart in the village and her parents didn't have Pokemon, so she was clueless. I'm getting a Pichina. Kiba said with a grin. Kasan and Wani-chan had me help with some new pups and one kind of bonded with me. I believe I will get an Inkata as my parents know I wish to get a Shedinja. Shino replied in his monotone voice. Ino and Sakura shivered at the thought of bug Pokemon. What about you Choji? Naruto asked as he looked up from the board, already giving up in defeat. Not sure either. The large teen said between mouthfuls of chips. Probably a Munchlax or Phanpy. Choji's family breeds Pokemon that were larger and eat a lot of food because they were poke food gourmets, specializing in making food for each breed, not just generic food. I don't know either. Hinata said quietly from her seat. I think I convinced Tucson, but I'm not sure. The others nodded in understanding. The Hyugas specialized in fighting types, but Hinata wasn't interested in them. She had recently found an article talking about the new fairy-type Pokemon, and when she saw the list of them, decided to talk to her father about becoming a fairy-type breeder since the elemental region didn't have one. If you made a logical argument, I'm sure he will agree. Shino told Hinata from his spot across from her. It'll be fine, Hinata-chan. Kiba said with a big grin. The others all nodded along, and Hinata gave a small smile. Thank you. She said quietly. Oni-chan. Naruto turned around to see his little sister pulling another young girl towards him. Hanabi-chan doesn't know about the poke sage and thinks I'm lying to her. Mito finished with a pout. I see. Naruto said with a chuckle as he looked over at Hinata's little sister and Mito's best friend. What did Mito say, because she might have embellished a bit? Hanabi took a seat next to her sister and let out a huff of embarrassment as everyone looked at her. She said the poke sage brought Pokemon to the elemental region and that his 9 strongest Pokemon still live to this day, roaming the lands. Well, she's not wrong about the first part. Shikamaru said through a yawn. Hagoromo Motsutsuki somehow made it through the rocky waters surrounding the elemental region and landed in Shino region. After traveling he returned with dozens of Pokemon and breed them. Shikamaru let out another yawn. As for his 9 strongest, that's something a lot of people argue about to this day. Oni-chan saw one though. Mito cut in quickly. Naruto chuckled as his sister defended him. It was true too. Well, when he was younger and playing in the forest outside the village, he saw a large Ninetales walking through the trees. His grandfather says it was Kurama, the strongest of all the legendary 9 Pokemon. And one day he's going to beat it, right, Oni-chan? Naruto chuckled again and ruffled her hair. That's right, Mito-chan. Hanabi scoffed, drawing his attention. If it's so old and powerful, how do you think you'll defeat it? The young girl asked, thought Naruto could hear the curiosity in her voice. Naruto grinned and wiggled his finger for Hanabi to lean in closer. When she did, he whispered to her. That's a secret. The others laughed as Hanabi growled and hopped up from the table and stormed off. Mito quickly followed after her, giggling all the way. So you still think you can do it? Kiba asked with a grin. Ever since Naruto saw the fox Pokemon, he had been saying he would track it down and defeat it. Naruto acted hurt by the question. You doubt my awesomeness and training skills, Kiba? Yes. Everyone said together before they all broke out in laughter, even Sasuke smiled. Well, they all did better in the academy than him. Naruto was by far the best trainer in a fight, using Pokemon he didn't even bond with. He could beat all of them. That was one of the reasons Sasuke saw him as his rival. What else are you going to do though? Ino asked curiously. She was always one for gossip and Naruto was the only one who hadn't shared his plans with her. I mean, all of you except Sakura will become breeders and she wants to be a coordinator like your mother. Sakura nodded along with Ino. Ever since she saw Kushina at one of the contests, she wanted to be like her. She constantly asked the woman for advice even though she wasn't competing yet. Luckily Kushina liked her and was happy to give her advice. I'm going to train to not only beat Kurama but also Tucson and become the champion. Naruto responded with a grin. So what type are you going to specialize in? Shino asked curiously. The others all nodded except Sasuke and Shikamaru, as both knew the answer. All. Naruto said with a grin. It's very rare for someone to have multiple types because of the difficulty in raising them all, but it's been done by a couple champions from the other regions. Naruto's grin increased. I'll be the first to do it in the elemental region. That's going to be really hard to do. You need to take into account weaknesses, strengths, environment and more. Sakura said sagely as she thought back to everything they learned about raising Pokemon in school. I'll be fine. Naruto said with a wave of his hand. I've been reading up and making notes about this for around 2 years now. Everyone looked surprised at the amount of work Naruto put into something. They then all began talking about their plans and what other Pokemon they planned to try and catch. Soon Kushina called them all over to where the adults were all gathering. 4 tables were set up with seats on one side and boxes in front of each one with name cards. Each of the teens sat down at their box as Tsunade moved in front of them. Alright, listen up. The blonde doctor said to gain their attention. You all have passed your final tests and as of now have received your trainer's license. She paused to let the parents give a small applause and Mito to cheer for Naruto. Now open your box. Inside each is a Pokédex and 6 Pokeballs. The Pokédex has been updated with all the latest Pokemon stats and has your information stored on it. Tsunade then narrowed her eyes at them. If you lose it, you will not get a replacement and Funsai Kai will punish you. A light appeared behind Tsunade and took the shape of a large green and brown turtle-like Pokemon. A large tree grew from the top of its shell, and moss covered parts of it. Thor. The Pokemon yelled loudly, causing the ground to vibrate slightly and making the teens go pale. Tsunade smirked and pulled out her Pokeball to return her Torterra. "Good boy," she whispered to the Pokeball. "Now I'm not going to give you some long speech about safety and all that because you'll hear it from your parents." Everyone chuckled. "You're all smart kids and I trust I won't be seeing any of you in the hospital anytime soon." She narrowed her eyes at Naruto as she finished, and the blonde teen understood the message. Now for the part everyone's been waiting for. Kushina called out from the crowd behind Tsunade. "Now I believe it should be the girls first." Kushina turned and looked to Sakura, Ino and Hinata's parents. "Who wants to go first?" "Me." Ino and Sakura both cried out as they leapt from their seats and rushed to their parents. Hinata followed slowly behind, and Naruto could tell she was nervous as she approached her father. "Here you go, Ino-chan." Inoichi Yamanaka said as he tossed a pink and white Pokeball to his daughter. "A heal ball, sweet." Ino said with a smile as she grabs the ball in the air before tossing it to the ground in front of her. "Come on out." Tossing the ball, Ino was full of excitement to see what she got. The light died to show a small black and white Pokemon with a purple head. "Off." Ino broke out into a squeal as she looked down at her Pokemon. "Yes, a Gothita." The little Pokemon flinched back at the sudden excitement and Ino quickly calmed down. "Oh, I'm sorry, I was just so excited." She knelt down and held out her hand to the Gothita. "I'm Ino." "Ida." The little Pokemon walked to her hand and poked it, then grasped it and shook. "Gothita. Oh, you are so cute." Ino said again and pulled the psychic Pokemon into a hug. "Thanks Ka-san, Tu-san." Ino said as she ran to her parents and did her best to hug them without crushing her new partner. "You're welcome, Ino-chan." They both replied. They all turned when they heard laughter and saw Sakura on the ground trying to hold back a small brown Pokemon. It barked happily as it continued its assault on the girl. Sakura's father was holding his stomach from laughing. "I told you she was an affectionate little thing," he said to his wife, who was giggling at the scene. "I can't believe you got me an EV, thank you," Sakura said as she finally got a hold of the small Pokemon. "Well, there's someone else you should thank too," Mibuki Haruno said as she nodded her head to the side. Sakura tuned to see Kushina give her a small wave and a smile. "Really? Is this from one of yours?" Sakura asked wide-eyed. "Sadly no, but a good friend from my traveling days breeds them and I called in a favor," Kushina said as she moved to Sakura and scratched behind the EV's ears, making the Pokemon start to purr. "I know how much you liked EV and when your parents asked if I could help out I couldn't say no." "Thank you so much Kushina-sama," Sakura said with a large smile. "I promise I'll take good care of her." Kushina nodded and gave the pinkette a grin. "I know you will." Hinata moved slowly to her father, he had stood off to the side of the other adults. It wasn't that he didn't like them, Hinata knew, but more he wasn't the kind of man who liked big gatherings. "Hinata." "Father." She said quietly, she gulped as he pulled out a heal ball like Ino had received. "I thought about what you said and this is the decision I made." Hinata nodded to her father and slowly took the ball. She took a deep breath and tossed it just beside them. "Ralts." Hinata's eyes went wide when she saw the small white and green Pokemon. "After doing some research I found this Pokemon is able to become a psychic fighting type, so I will allow you to pursue breeding fairy type as long as you breed Ralts for both our family and the Yamanakas." Hiashi informed her. Hinata was at a loss for words as the small Pokemon pulled on her pants leg to get her attention. Inoichi watched for across the yard with a smile on his face as Hinata picked up her Pokemon. His family had enough Pokemon to take care of and never planned to start with the feeling Pokemon, but was surprised when Hiashi approached him with his idea. Inoichi could tell the man was just making it seem like a business venture, but really just wanted to make his daughter happy, that was just the only way he knew how. "Alright Ino-chan, why don't we let the boys meet their partners now?" Ino nodded and picked up her Pokemon and turned to watch as all the boys walked over to their parents. "Finally, geez." Kiba called out as he approached his mother. Tsuminyazuka smirked and tossed a Pokeball on the ground. The light faded and a gray blur launched itself into Kiba's stomach, knocking the boy onto his back. "Pooch." The small Pochina said as it stood on Kiba's chest, its tail wagging happily. "You got a hard head, buddy." Kiba commented as he scratched the Pokemon behind its ear, getting a happy purr. "Of course he does." Kiba looked up to see his sister Hana standing over him, her Houndoom triplets behind her. "They say a Pokemon is very similar to its owner. Which explains why all yours are female." Kiba thought to himself as he stood up and walked over to his mother. Hana narrowed her eyes at her retreating brother. "I may not be psychic, but I know what you're thinking, we'll talk about it tonight." Kiba gulped as he arrived at his mother. "Surprise," she said sarcastically as she scratched Kiba's new Pokemon. "But seriously, I expect you to take good care of him." I will Ka-san, don't worry. Kiba rolled his eyes as he spoke and then turned to see what the others got. Shikamaru and Choji arrived at their parents together and both fathers handed them their pokeballs. We hope you like them. Chimza Akimichi said with a big smile to his son and Shikamaru. Both boys nodded and turned around. On three? Shikamaru asked Choji, the large boy giving him a nod. 1, 2, 3. Both tossed their pokeballs and watched as the glowing lights took shape. Slaw. A small tan Pokemon with 2 dark brown stripes on its back said. Slacketh, it said with a yawn as it closed its eyes. Munch. A hairy blue Pokemon said as it looked around, its eyes going wide when it saw the buffet table. Munchlax. It cried and ran to the table and began to eat, causing the others to chuckle. Really a Slacketh? Shikamaru said with a glare to his parents. That's a cheap shot, Ka-san. Shikamaru's mother just grinned and shrugged. I thought you would be happy with a Pokemon who sleeps as much as you do. Shikamaru muttered a troublesome under his breath as he laid down next to the slacker Pokemon. Thank you. Shikamaru said with a smile, his parents nodded in return. I think that Munchlax eats as much as Choji. Turning the Naras all say Choji, his Munchlax and Choza all pigging out on the free food. Shino moved over to his parents, both wore high coats like him and sunglasses, and you could only tell the difference in them because his father had spiky black hair. To-san, Ka-san. Shino said with a small nod. Shino-kun. His mother said as she handed him a netball. Shino took it and unleashed the Pokemon inside. Ninkata. The white bug Pokemon said as it began to examine its surroundings. Ninka. Thank you To-san, Ka-san. Shino said with a slight twitch of his lips, the closest thing to public affection he had ever shown. Sasuke and Naruto walked over to where their mothers were standing, Mito bouncing on her feet beside Kushina. Of course our boys have to be last. Mikoto said with a dramatic sigh. Save the best for last, Ka-san. Sasuke said with a slight smirk, his mother couldn't help but smile as she pulled out an almost black pokeball. A luxury ball. Sasuke said surprised, they were the most expensive ball to buy, and while he knew his family had money he was surprised it was used for a starter. Your father did it before I convinced him to allow us to come to the party, as an apology. Mikoto informed Sasuke, though the way she said convinced had the Namikaze chuckling. Sasuke nodded and took the ball, tossing it to the side to reveal his Pokemon. Char. The red lizard Pokemon called out as it looked around. Mander. Sasuke smirked as he walked over to the Charmander and held out his hand. The lizard Pokemon gave him a few sniffs to move towards him, so Sasuke was petting it. Char. I see you've been reading the family books. Mikoto said with a grin. Sasuke gave her a small nod, then turned to Naruto. So Dobe, what did you get? Naruto twitched at the nickname from their youth when he didn't study but held his tongue as he looked to this mother. Kushina cleared her throat and turned to Minato, who mimicked her and turned to Tsunade, whose eye was twitching in anger. I'll kill him. She said heatedly before she turned stomping out of the backyard and into the house. So it was my Pokemon, huh? Naruto asked while Minato and Kushina nodded their heads. The blonde teen let out a sigh. I really shouldn't be surprised by this. Gigi's dead, isn't he, To-san? Mito asked as she pulled on her father's pant leg to get his attention. Minato sighed and picked her up. Afraid so, princess. Mito let out a sigh at her father's words. Sorry about this, Naruto, I should have expected it. It's fine. Naruto said with a shrug, though he was slightly disappointed. What is it, or what was it supposed to be? No idea. Kushina answered as she ran her hands through Naruto's hair. Your grandparents decided to keep it a secret from us, knew we shouldn't have left it to that pervert. Kushina glared at Minato as she finished. Don't look at me, you told them both it was okay. Minato quickly said he didn't want to be caught in his father's punishment. Torterra. Everyone turned when they heard the large grass Pokemon's roar. Aya. Suddenly a red and white blur flew over the house and right into the pool. Everyone crowded around to see what it was when Jiraiya surfaced, gasping for air. What the hell, I'm barely late and she gets all pissed at me. Well, seeing as your grandson is the only one without a Pokemon, I'd say she had a right to be. Minato said evenly to his father. Jiraiya actually looked surprised and looked around to see all the other teens had their Pokemon out. Oh. Jiraiya said as he paddled to the edge of the pool and climbed out. Well, sorry then, Naruto. The blonde teen helped his grandfather out of the pool and gave a shrug. Well, I was kind of upset, but Bachan's revenge made it okay. Jiraiya chuckled and pulled off his coat. I should have done worse. Tsunade called as she appeared out of the back door, Jiraiya's Toxicroak hopping behind her. But seeing as you were just taking your time and not peeping at the hot springs, I let you slide. That was letting me slide? Jiraiya asked as he pointed to the house. You had me thrown over the house, front gate and halfway down the walkway. Funsai Kai threw you into the pool. Tsunade said as she moved a stray hair out of her face. But did you have him aim for the pool? Jiraiya asked with narrowed eyes. So give him to Naruto. Tsunade said, ignoring Jireya's question. Jiraiya sighed and pulled out a pokeball, tossing it to Naruto. Naruto took a breath to calm his nerves. This was the moment he had been preparing for since he knew what a trainer was. Come on out. Naruto tossed a ball in front of him. Froakie. Naruto smiled when he saw the small frog-like Pokemon looking up at him. A Froakie. Kushina said as she examined the Pokemon. That's a pretty good choice. It's a starter for the Kalos region. Minato nodded in agreement. You remembered. Naruto said with a smile as he turned around to see Tsunade and Jiraiya grinning at him. Remembered what? Minato asked as he turned to his parents. Well, when Naruto was 5, Tsunade started to tell the story of why they chose this Pokemon. You'll never catch me, Hikageru. A 5-year-old Naruto yelled as he ran through the trees in the park. Toxie. Jiraiya's Toxicroak called out as it hopped after the little boy. Jiraiya and Tsunade chuckled as they slowly followed after their grandson. He has far too much energy. Tsunade said with a tired sigh. They had been watching Naruto while his parents were taking a small vacation and he was wearing them out. Definitely takes after his mother, Minato-kun was never this energetic. Jiraiya said with a chuckle, Tsunade joining him. Suddenly they heard a splash followed by multiple splashes. Bachan. Tsunade and Jiraiya both grew worried and sprinted through the trees towards Naruto's voice. They stopped short and suddenly broke into laughter at the sight before them. Look, Bachan, I caught a Pokemon. Naruto called out proudly. He was drenched and standing in a foot of water, holding a squirming Froakie in his arms. He was so sad he had to let it go, but Jiraiya-kun and I have been planning this since that day. Tsunade said with a smile. How did I not get a picture of this? Kushina asked with wide eyes. She was a little upset she hadn't heard this story before. Hey Froakie. Naruto said as he dropped to the ground, the little frog Pokemon watching him curiously. How would you like to travel around and grow strong with me? Froakie. It chirped as it jumped into his lap. Fro. Alright. Naruto said with a grin as he held the Pokemon up into the air. Together we're going to become the strongest ever. Hi. Froakie called out as it raised its arm in the air. We'll see about that, Naruto. Sasuke said from beside him. Yeah. Kiba called out as he walked over, his Pachina at his side. I'll take you guys on any time. Naruto replied as he hopped to his feet. Not in my backyard you won't. Kushina said with a glare at the three boys. She already had to clean up after the party and there was no way she was resodding a yard after an amateur Pokemon battle. I think it's getting late and we should call it a night. Minato announced to everyone. After all, these kids have a long day ahead of them. Getting agreements all around, everyone helped pick up a little before saying their goodbyes and heading home. Froak. Naruto's Froakie said from Mito's lap as it tried to examine the bag Naruto was packing. Don't forget these, Ani-chan. Mito said as she held up Naruto's bright orange earbuds for his music player. Mito had gotten them for his last birthday. Of course I want, Mito-chan. Naruto said as he took them and ruffled the girl's hair. All packed. Naruto spun around to see his father and mother walking into the room. Mostly, need to pack some food for Froakie. Naruto replied with a nod to the Pokemon. Froak. The little blue Pokemon said with a nod, making everyone chuckle. Knock knock. A voice called out from downstairs the family recognized. Up here, Kakashi. Minato called out to his old student. Walking up the stairs was a man in his late 20s, he wore a green vest over a long-sleeved black shirt. He had tall gravity-defying silver hair and a headband covering one of his eyes and a blue face mask covering his nose and mouth. Naruto noticed a Jolteon was walking in behind him. Evening sensei, Kushina-sama, Naruto-kun, Mito-chan. Kakashi said cheerfully. Jolt. The yellow electric Pokemon called out. I hope the party went well. Kakashi asked and then spotted Froakie. Oh, a Froakie, an excellent choice for a starter sensei. Actually, Toussaint picked it out. Minato informed his student. What's up, Kakashi? And can't I stop by and give my little brother a parting gift? Kakashi asked dramatically, though he wasn't related, he saw them all as family as his had all died when he was young. Naruto grinned and appeared right in front of Kakashi. What is it? Kakashi chuckled and pulled his backpack off his shoulder and opened it, pulling out a plain medium-sized box. Naruto took it and carefully opened it, gasping when he saw the contents. I figured your parents would get the basics, but I thought you might like a few extra things. Kakashi said as everyone tried to look into the box. First, I special ordered you a badge case. I know orange is your favorite color. Kakashi took the box and placed it on the table and pulled out the bright orange badge case, handing it to Naruto. Next I got you 2 heal, luxury, grade and ultra balls. Pulling out a smaller box, Kakashi handed it to Naruto, and the blonde saw it held each of the different balls. And finally a collapsible fishing rod and some bait. Naruto grinned as he received the last gift, placing it all down he pulled Kakashi into a hug. "Thanks Ani-chan," Naruto said quietly to the man, earning a chuckle from Kakashi. "And have you out there unprepared can we?" Kakashi asked as he shot Minato a wink. "These were very thoughtful Kakashi," Kushina said as she placed the gifts into Naruto's bag. "Well Naruto, what is your plan for tomorrow?" Kakashi asked as he took a seat in the chair at Naruto's desk. "Well, I want to head to grass country first. I hope to grab a fire type before I leave and train it, and Froakie there while also catching a grass type. Then I'll head to Iowa for the mountain badge," Naruto informed them as he plopped onto the bed and took Froakie from his sister. "Smart plan," Minato said with a nod. "Training Froakie against grass types first will boost his power better than just fighting fire types. And having a grass and fire type early on will help you out later on," Kakashi chimed in. "That's what I thought. I'll also pick up a rock type while I'm there, then head to Suna. Since Froakie and whatever grass type I get will be battle experienced and type advantage against ground types. Seems you have this well thought out," Minato said with a smile, proud his son wasn't just going with his gut. "Do you plan to hit up the safari zone in Kusa?" Kushina asked curiously. "They finished it last year and I hear it's good to get all kinds of Pokemon types." "I didn't plan on it, but I'll look into it, Ka-san, thanks," Naruto said with a smile and made a mental note to check out the safari zone. "Well, it's getting late and it seems Naruto has everything in order," Kakashi said as he stood and ruffled Naruto's hair. "I'll miss you Naruto, don't forget to call every once in a while." "I won't," Naruto said with a nod to Kakashi, who returned it and headed for the door. "Come on Mito-chan, time for bed," Kushina said as she scooped up her daughter. "But I want to stay up with Ani-chan and I'm not tired," Mito whined, though she yawned a bit at the end. Kushina ignored her plea and took her out the door, leaving Naruto and Minato alone. "Sachi," Minato said, drawing Naruto's attention. "I want you to be careful on your journey. I know you've heard me and your grandfather talking, so you know it can be dangerous out there." "I will too, San," Naruto said with a firm nod. "Plus Froakie will keep me safe, right buddy?" "Froakie?" the frog Pokemon said, happily looking up at Naruto. Minato chuckled and nodded his head. "So are you going to give him a name?" Minato asked. While not everyone named all their Pokemon, usually they named their first or ones they knew would be a part of their main team for a long time. "I've been thinking about it and I think I came up with one," Naruto said as he placed Froakie in front of him. "So Froakie, how would you like the name Kikrik?" The small Pokemon thought about it for a minute. "Froakie?" it called out with a smile. Naruto grinned. "Alright, Kikrik it is then." Minato nodded his head at the name while his son talked to the Pokemon. He was very proud of him and couldn't wait to hear about his adventures. "Well, I'm off to bed, don't stay up too late and we'll see you in the morning Naruto." Minato gave his son a quick hug and then headed off to his room, pulling the door closed as he did. Mito Namikaze slowly crept down the hall to her brother's room. It was her last chance to scare him awake for who knows how long, and she was determined to make it the best yet. Sticking her tongue out in concentration, she slowly reached up and turned the door handle to Naruto's room and just barely pushed it open. Taking a few steps back, Mito took a large breath and ran at the door, kicking it open. "Wake up Oni-chan ahhh." Naruto had flipped out of his bed at the sound of his little sister, but quickly sat up when he heard her scream in fright. Naruto did his best to hold back the laughter as he saw a soaking wet Mito. "Hi," Kikrik said as it looked at the door confused. It had heard a loud noise and attacked on instinct with Bubble. "Ha-san," Mito yelled as she fled from the room. "Froakie-chan got me all wet." Naruto wanted to feel bad, but Mito that should teach Mito to be more careful from now on. "Good job Kikrik," Naruto said as he patted the head of his starter. Kikrik chirped. It didn't know why it was getting praised, but it was happy to accept it. Naruto opened up his dresser and started to pull out his clothes, a black pair of pants, white short-sleeved shirt and finally a lightweight jacket that was blue on the torso and orange along the sleeve and shoulders. Checking himself in the mirror, Naruto nodded and grabbed his black and orange backpack. "Come on Kikrik." The blue frog Pokemon hopped after its trainer as they both went down the stairs. Naruto walked into the kitchen to see a pouting Mito picking at her food while his mother was cooking. "Morning sweetie," Kushina said with a smile to him as he sat down, Kikrik jumping onto the table. Naruto, no Pokemon on the table. "Sorry buddy," Naruto said as he picked up Kikrik and placed him on the ground. "Don't worry, after we leave you can eat where you want," Naruto whispered to the Pokemon and gave it a wink. "Here you go," Kushina said as she placed a plate in front of Naruto and then a bowl for Kikrik. "You're both going to need plenty of energy today." Naruto sighed when he heard his mother's voice drop slightly in sadness. "Thank you Ka-san," Naruto said as he dug into the meal. Froakie. The little Pokemon said as it mimicked Naruto. Morning everyone. Minato said as he entered the kitchen. Now why is my princess pouting? Froakie sprayed me with bubbles. Mito mumbled out. Minato looked to Naruto for clarification. She woke me in her usual manner, but Kikrik got startled and attacked her. Naruto said as he downed his orange juice. Well princess, you have no one to blame but yourself. Minato said with a smile as he stroked her hair, though it didn't stop Mito from pouting. So you ready? Minato turned to his son. Naruto let out a sigh and looked around the house. Yeah, I think I am. Both men turned when they heard Kushina sniff, tears starting to form in her eyes. My boy is leaving us. Naruto suppressed a groan in his throat as Kushina ran over and hugged him tightly. Realizing it was important to her, Naruto let her hold him for a few minutes before he looked to his father with pleading eyes. Come on Kushina, it's not like we won't see him anymore. Minato said as he attempted to pull his wife off Naruto. I'm sure he will call often, won't you? Naruto nodded his head, which seemed to placate Kushina, so she relaxed her grip. Every day? Kushina asked as she stared into Naruto's eyes, tears still forming in hers. Pa-san. Naruto whined. He knew if he promised that and forgot one day she would freak out. How about once a week? Minato replied to Kushina more than Naruto. The red-deeded woman seemed to think about it for a second before nodding. Deal. Naruto said as he broke free of his mother and pulled out Kikrik's pokeball. Time to go bud, return. A red beam shot out and surrounded Kikrik before pulling him into the pokeball. Naruto looked over to his sister and held out his arms. How about a hug for your big brother? Mito got up from her seat and ran around to Naruto, jumping into his arms, and he pushed past the fact she was still damp. I miss you. She said quietly, and Naruto wondered if she also might start crying. Be good for Tusan and Kasan, okay? Naruto said to her as he put her down and ruffled her hair. She gave him a quick nod. Tusan. Naruto turned to his father and gave him a quick hug before looking at his mother again. Oh, just go. Kushina said with a sad smile. If I hug you again I might not let go. Minato put his arm around his wife and gave her shoulder a squeeze. I'll call when I get to Kusa. Naruto called out as he threw his backpack on and headed to the door to grab his black combat boots. As he walked down the front walkway, Naruto turned back and gave his house one last look before heading towards the main gates. Naruto was surprised to see Shino and Sasuke standing at the gates when he arrived. Both had their traveling gear and were dressed for the road. Sasuke in a black shirt, blue pants, black sneakers and white wristbands with the Uchiha clan brand on each. Shino was in his usual trench coat and Naruto could see he had boots on like him. Hey guys, heading out as well? HN. Sasuke replied, and Naruto raised a brow at the Uchiha's obvious bad mood. What's got your panties in a twist? Naruto asked as he stopped in front of the teens. Sasuke glared at the blonde but said nothing. Sakura-san will be traveling with him. Shino answered for Sasuke, causing the dark-haired teen's glare to shift to his. Naruto snorted out a laugh. How did she manage that? Naruto asked through his laughter. Sasuke let out a long sigh and kicked the ground. She told Ka-san if she talked me into taking her with me, she would send plenty of pictures and make me call at least every couple of days. Naruto blinked in surprise. Damn, she's clever. He said before letting out another chuckle. I hate you. Was Sasuke's response. Naruto nodded his head and turned to Shino. Waiting for Kiba and Hinata. Shino shook his head at the blonde's question. Since she received a fairy type, her travel plans have changed. She found someone that had bred a snubble and wanted to get one before they were gone. Shino replied as he adjusted his sunglasses. Kiba-san wanted one as well and will be traveling with her. Since I have no interest, I hoped I might travel to Kusa with you as I want to visit the safari zone. Naruto doubted Kiba was going with Hinata. Sure, no problem. Naruto said with a grin. Ka-san actually told me about that yesterday and I was going to check it out. Shino nodded and turned towards the gates to leave, Naruto following in step. Naruto. The blonde stopped and looked back at Sasuke. 1 month. Naruto cocked an eyebrow at the statement for a second before he understood. Sasuke was challenging him to a battle in a month. The Namikaze shot him a grin. 1 month. Naruto said with a nod. That would give him a goal to shot for and keep him training more than just for gyms. Let's hit the road, Shino. The trench coat wearing teen nodded and fell into step with Naruto. X X X X X X X X X X X X X X X X X X X X X X X X X X X X X X X X X X X X X X X X X X X X X X X X X X X X X X X X X X X X X X X X. Come on out, Kikrik. Naruto called as he leaned against a tree. He and Shino had been traveling for about 5 hours and decided to stop for lunch. Froakie. The Pokemon called out as it launched itself into Naruto's lap. Inago. Shino said as he held up his Pokeball and released his Ninkata. Nin. The bug Pokemon said as it scurried out of the sunlight to the food Shino placed down for it. Naruto reached into his pocket and pulled out his Pokédex, pointing it at the bug. Ninkata, the trainee Pokemon. Ninkata lives underground. It uses its sharp claws to carve the roots of trees and absorb moisture and nutrients. This Pokemon can't withstand bright sunlight, so avoids it. This Ninkata is female and registered to Shino Aburum of Konoha. Well, at least the trees will block the light. Naruto said out loud as he moved Kikrik out of his lap, pulling food for him out of his backpack. Shino nodded and pulled out his Pokédex, pointing it at Kikrik. Froakie, the bubble frog Pokemon. It protects its skin by covering its body in delicate bubbles. Beneath its happy-go-lucky air, it keeps a watchful eye on its surroundings. This Froakie is male and registered to Naruto Namikaze of Konoha. Interesting. Shino said as he closed his Pokédex. What level is he? Naruto pulled his Pokédex back out and brought up Kikrik's stats. Level 6, he knows Growl, Pound, Bubble and Quick Attack. I'm gonna start training him to learn Lick and Double Team after he eats. Naruto took a bit of his sandwich. What about, Inago was it? Shino nodded. She is level 5 and knows Harden, Scratch, Leech Life and Sand Attack. Shino replied and pushed his sunglasses up. I will be working on Mind Reader and Dig later. Naruto nodded and gave Kikrik a pat on the head. Eat up, buddy, cause we got some work to do. His Froakie nodded and went back to devouring its food. Soon they were all done eating and Shino went deeper into the woods so Inago could train out of the light. Naruto looked down at Kikrik and grinned. The little frog Pokemon was almost bouncing in place with excitement. Alright, Kikrik. He said as he held up his Pokédex. To learn Lick we need to practice accuracy with your tongue and you need to learn to channel power into your tongue while you attack, got it? Fro. The blue Pokemon called out as it turned to a tree and shot its tongue out at it. For half an hour Naruto gave instructions and encouragement to his Pokemon until it seemed to have learned the attack. Great work, buddy. Naruto called out with a smile as he held the frog up. Let's take a break, then we're going to do some running together to help your speed and stamina. Naruto pulled out a bottle of water and poured some in Kikrik's bowl for him to drink while he leaned back against the tree. Kikrik has good motivation, hopefully after some training he won't want to quiet. Naruto was broken from his thoughts when he heard some bushes rustling. Kikrik quickly turned and stared at the bushes, not reacting to Naruto standing up behind him. Growl. A orange and black dog-like Pokemon said as it came out of the bush and stared at Naruto and Kikrik. The blonde trainer's eyes widened with excitement as he pulled out his Pokédex. Growl of the puppy Pokemon. Very friendly and faithful to people. It will try to repel enemies by barking and biting. Alright, Kikrik. Naruto said as he closed the Pokédex, realizing he couldn't learn more about the Pokemon unless he caught it. Time for our first battle, you ready? Naruto was worried Kikrik might be tired. Hi. Kikrik called out as it took a fighting stance. Naruto grinned and nodded to him. Alright, Kikrik, jump into the air and hit Growlithe with Bubble. With a mighty leap Kikrik jumped high into the air and released a spray of bubbles at the puppy Pokemon. The Growlithe seemed to grin as it jumped to the side to avoid the attack and let out a mighty roar as Kikrik landed. Don't let it get to you, Kikrik. Naruto yelled as he saw his Pokemon take a step back. We got this, cover the area with Bubble. Naruto's voice broke Kikrik's thoughts of retreat and it took a big breath before releasing a large amount of bubbles all over the area. Growlithe shot flames out of its mouth to destroy the bubbles but unfortunately missed a few and was hit, letting out a whimper. Growl, Kikrik, then get in closer and use Lick. Naruto ordered and his Pokemon didn't hesitate to let out a loud growl before leaping at Growlithe and hitting it with its tongue. Growlithe. The wild Pokemon called out as it shook its head and narrowed its eyes at Kikrik. Growl. It called out before releasing flames at Kikrik. Counter with Bubble and don't let up. Naruto called out quickly before he turned and grabbed his backpack. Making sure to not look away from the battle, Naruto reached in and found the box Kakashi had given him. Leap away and keep moving, Kikrik, use Bubble as you do to fill the area from different angles. Kikrik listened to Naruto's orders and didn't hesitate to follow them. After all, it was winning a battle against a Pokemon who moments ago it was scared of, but under its trainer it was easily winning. Naruto clicked the heal ball, so it was enlarged and watched as Kikrik kept moving and firing bubbles at Growlithe. While winning, it was obvious to Naruto Kikrik was getting tired, so he tossed a Pokeball when the Growlithe was facing away. Being surrounded by light, the wild Pokemon was sucked into the ball. Naruto waited anxiously as the pink ball shook once, twice, a third time, then dinged. Yes, I caught a Growlithe. Naruto cheered as he ran to Kikrik and picked him up. You did amazing, buddy. Froakie. Kikrik said happily, though it was tired from the constant moving during the fight. Naruto grinned and walked over to the heal ball and clicked it so it shrank. He wanted to give Kikrik time to rest before bringing Growlithe back out. Someone deserves a break. Naruto said as he pulled out some treats for Kikrik, getting a happy chirp as he did. How did the training go, Shino? Naruto asked as he saw Shino coming back. Well, Inago can use dig, but we'll need practice before I have her use it in battle. Shino replied as he adjusted his sunglasses. Mind Reader will need more work. How was your training? Naruto broke out into a huge grin. Great, Kikrik has licked down, and guess what? Naruto said as he pulled out Growlithe's Pokeball. I caught a Growlithe. Shino raised an eyebrow. Really? The teen was surprised as Growlithes usually caught the scent of humans and avoided them. Congratulations. Thanks, I was actually about to bring him out for introductions, so be careful. Shino nodded as Naruto moved forward. Come on out, Growlithe. With a toss, the heal bowl opened and released the once wild Pokemon. Growlithe. The orange and black Pokemon said as it looked around, narrowing its eyes when it found Naruto. Growl. It crouched in a ready position. Easy boy. Naruto said as he held out a handful of food. I'm not here to fight you anymore, want some food? Naruto crouched down and stayed still as the Growlithe watched him. Kikrik and Shino both were watching and ready to intervene. Growlithe watched Naruto carefully for a few seconds before it took a small step forward, then another until it was in front of Naruto and sniffed the food. After another few seconds of sniffing, Growlithe started to eat the food out of his hand. Naruto carefully reached up with his free hand and scratched the puppy Pokemon behind its ears. That's a good Growlithe, I'll bet you were hungry and that's why you came here. Growl. The Pokemon said with a nod, then turned and stared at Kikrik. You want a rematch, huh? Naruto asked the Growlithe, getting a bark in answer. Well, if you come with us, not only will you get a rematch, but I'll help you get stronger. Growlithe looked up into Naruto's eyes for a few seconds. Growlithe. It barked before jumping up and licking him on the face. Naruto chuckled and started to scratch the Pokemon. Welcome to the team, Growlithe. Shino watched the scene with interest. It had always been said Naruto had amazing luck, but Shino never really believed in luck. However, seeing Naruto catch and befriend one of the most elusive Pokemon in Fire Country made him wonder. Congratulations, Naruto. Shino, Kikrik and Growlithe watched confused as Naruto dug in his backpack and pulled out a notebook. I'll write one down. Naruto said as he flipped to a page and marked on it. Shino moved to his side and looked down to see a list of Pokemon names. What is this? Shino asked as he looked over the page. It's a list of every orange-colored Pokemon in the elemental region. Shino waited for a few seconds for Naruto to laugh at his own joke, but soon realized it wasn't a joke. You're serious? Shino asked to be sure. His sweat dropped when Naruto nodded his head. I know he likes orange, but this is slightly obsessive. Alright. Naruto said as he snapped the notebook closed and pulling out his Pokédex. Let's see, male, level 8, nice. Naruto said as he scratched Growlithe under the chin. Nose bite, roar, ember, leer and odor sleuth. Naruto let out a whistle. He has the ability flash fire. That is quite impressive. Shino said as he looked at Growlithe. He will be handy when facing Sarutobi-sama for the flame badge. Naruto grinned. That settles it, Growlithe, welcome to the A-team. The two Pokemon and Shino all gave Naruto a confused look. A-team? Shino asked. Naruto nodded his head. Since I want to have a team of various types, I'm only catching a few of each type, and with Growlithe's abilities, he obviously will be the lead fire type. Naruto clarified. Once I have him learn all his moves, I'll see if he wants to evolve to an Arcanine. While Naruto wanted an Arcanine, he would never force a Pokemon to evolve because that would lead to resentment from them. Now we need a name for you, Naruto rubbed his chin in thought as Growlithe stared up at him. I got it, Han, you like that name? Growl. Growlithe said in excitement. Hi. Kikrik croaked as he hopped over to his new friend. Froakie Fro. Han looked at him for a second before licking the frog Pokemon. Lied. Naruto smiled as Kikrik mimicked Han and licked the puppy Pokemon. Well, let's get you two into your balls. We need to get back on the road. Naruto said as he returned both his Pokemon and clipped the balls back onto his belt. Ready to go, Shino. Getting a nod, both teens headed down the trail towards Kusa. X X X X X X X X X X X X X X X X X X X X X X X X X X X X X Pokemon Center Kusa X X X X X X X X X X X X X X X X X X X X X X X X. Naruto Namek is your Pokemon are ready for pickup. Naruto Namek is your Pokemon are ready for pickup. Naruto looked up from his magazine as he heard the intercom announcement and made his way to the pickup desk. It had been 2 days since he caught Han, they had made good time, and Naruto got a few more battles with wild Pokemon in for both Kikruk and Han, but didn't find another Pokemon he wanted to catch. He and Shino had gotten into the city last night and gone straight to bed, wanting showers and a comfy bed instead of their tents. Now they were about to head to the Safari Zone. Were there any problems, Nurse Joy? Naruto asked the pink-haired nurse behind the counter. None at all, your Froakie is very friendly though. Nurse Joy replied with a smile. Naruto let out a chuckle and nodded. But he is thank you for healing them both. Naruto said as he picked up the Pokeballs and walked over to a waiting Shino. Let's go, hopefully we can beat the crowd. Shino nodded as they made their way through the city towards its limits. Kusa was not as crowded as Konoha, but covered just as much area. The reason was almost every few blocks was a flower garden, displaying many different types of flowers found in grass country. Soon they walked into the shadows of tall walls just on the outskirts of the city. Damn. Naruto said as he leaned back to look at the wall. They had to make large walls so the Pokemon could not escape. Shino informed Naruto as they headed to the entranceway. Walking into the building they saw 7 other people in casual clothes. Cool, not a lot of people here. Naruto said as he looked around the room and spotted someone in a khaki vest, light blue colored shirt and a safari hat on. Bet that's who we want to talk to. Naruto said to Shino while pointing to the woman he spotted. The Aburum nodded and led the way to her. Welcome to the Elemental Region Safari Zone, how can I help you today? The woman asked when she saw the duo approach. We want to catch some Pokemon. Naruto said with a large smile while Shino nodded. Is this your first time here? She asked and continued when she saw them nod. It's 500 Pokédollars, you will receive 30 Safari Balls and have 2 hours to roam and catch Pokemon. She then pointed to some lockers. We must ask you place all your Pokemon in a locker as you are not allowed to use them in the Safari Zone. Wait, then how can we weaken the Pokemon to catch them? Naruto asked confused. Shino raised an eyebrow as well. The Safari Balls are stronger than normal Pokeballs and it is possible to catch all Pokemon inside with them, it is not a 100% guarantee though. The woman informed them, finishing quickly at the end. Naruto hummed in thought and looked at Shino. The Aburum shrugged his shoulders and Naruto sighed. He scratched his head and thought. I guess it's cool, I mean they wouldn't still be around if it wasn't possible to catch a Pokemon without battling it. Alright, I'm in. Naruto said as he pulled out his wallet and handed over the money. Great, the woman said as she took the money and handed Naruto a key. This opens locker 17 where you can place your Pokemon. We will be opening the doors for another group in 10 minutes. Nodding, Naruto went over and placed his things in the locker, pulling out his fishing pole and bait because he saw a picture of a pond on the area map by the lockers. Shino joined him and the two waited against the wall until a buzzer went off and the large doors opened. A few people came through and then a tall well-built man stood in the doorway. Attention next group, please gather here in an orderly fashion and we will let you enter. You have 2 hours, announcements will be made every half hour so you don't lose track of time. Anyone seen catching Pokemon after their time is up will be thrown out and all Pokemon confiscated. Do you have any questions? But no one raised their hand. He nodded and moved out of the doorway. Have fun and be safe. Naruto shielded his eyes as he stepped out into the sunlight but let out a low whistle when he looked around. The area they were in was a large open field, a few Pokemon were grazing on the grass while others were running into the tree lines. Where are you heading, Naruto? The blonde turned at Shino's question and held up his fishing gear. I saw a pond marked on the map that way. Naruto answered as he pointed off to the eastern tree line. Since I'm heading to Iowa, I figure another water type would be helpful. Shino nodded and looked straight ahead. I will be off that way. The forest is the largest and thus has the greater probability to have bug types. Shino said as he adjusted his glasses and began walking towards the forest. Naruto nodded and headed towards his own area. As Naruto walked through the trees he saw a few grass types, Bellsprout and Oddish mostly, running around but didn't want to catch one, so he ignored them. As the first announcement that 15 minutes had passed went out, Naruto had come to the pond. Alright, time to reel in a big one. Dropping to the ground, Naruto baited his hook and cast the line. Here, fishy fishy fishy. Naruto called out as he sat patiently on the bank, though after 5 minutes he started to get bored. Come on you stupid water types, bite. The line was tugged and Naruto fought the urge to pull. He waited as he felt it tug again. Gotcha. Naruto yelled as he jumped up and pulled the pole hard, he then began reeling in the catch. Come on you son of a, with a mighty tug Naruto saw a Pokemon break the water and land on the ground next to him. Carp carp carp. A large reddish orange Pokemon with yellow fins and whiskers said as it flopped on the bank. The Magikarp was used to this, it had been caught several times since it was born here months ago and knew what to expect. The human would get mad, possible kick him, and then push him back into the water before trying to catch something else. Yes, I got a Magikarp. Naruto yelled as he jumped around in victory, causing the Pokemon to look shocked. Oh wait, Naruto stopped his celebration and pulled out a Safari Ball, tossing it hard at the Pokemon. Magikarp was so stunned by the reaction he didn't even try to fight and in a matter of seconds was caught. Yes. Naruto cried again as he went to pick up the Pokeball, but jumped back as it glowed white and disappeared in a flash. I guess they don't want us to use newly caught ones to weaken other possible catches. Shrugging, Naruto looked back at the pond and wondered if he should attempt to catch another Pokemon, but shook his head, training 2 water types would be enough for now, and he wanted to find out what else might be in the Safari Zone. Collapsing his fishing pole, Naruto looked around and decided to head around the pond before walking deeper into the forest. Again he saw a few bug and grass types, but nothing he had an interest in. He was tempted to catch a bug type to trade to Shino, but figured the teen would only trade for another bug so nicked that idea. After searching the area for around 30 minutes, Naruto heard odd noises and moved as quietly as possible to see what it was. Nido. Naruto heard as he carefully parted a bush and looked into a small clearing where 4 Pokemon were. He recognized them all. 3 were small purple Pokemon with large ears and barbs sticking out of their bodies, while the last was a pale blue with smaller barbs and ears. Nidorans. Naruto thought as he watched 2 of the purple males attack the other, while the female stood back and shook with fear. Ran. The single one said as it leapt at the others, both moved to the sides to avoid the attack. As they landed they turned and their horns glowed before both leapt forward and struck the lone male. Nido. It cried in pain but leapt back towards the female. Ran Nidoran Nido. The female cried as it started to move forward, but the lone male turned to her. Nido Nido. It cried and looked back at the 2 males as they scratched at the ground, preparing to attack. Naruto wasn't sure what was going on, but he didn't like what he was seeing, taking a breath he jumped out from behind the bush. Heyyyyyy. All the Pokemon became startled and turned to face him, the 2 males both dashed off into the bushes when they saw it was a human, while the female ran behind the injured male as he turned to Naruto. Nidoran. The injured male said through labored breaths as it moved forward, obviously ready to attack Naruto. Easy boy, I don't want to hurt you. Naruto said as he pulled the Pokemon bait out. Well, it was designed for water types, it could be eaten by any Pokemon. Here you need food to heal. Naruto walked forward and dropped the bait on the ground before stepping back and sitting down and pulling out his Pokédex, pointing it at the male first. Nidoran. The poison pin Pokemon. Its large ears are flapped like wings when it is listening to distant sounds. It extends toxic barbs when angered. Nidoran. The poison pin Pokemon. Small and very docile, it protects itself with its small poisonous horn when attacked. Both Pokemon flinched back as his Pokédex spoke, but soon the female started moving to the food. Nido. The male said as it jumped in front of the female. Ran. The female whined as she looked at the food, the male let out a sigh and looked at Naruto then the food. It moved forward and sniffed the food before taking a small bite of the pile, chewing slowly it swallowed, then watched Naruto again. Nidoran. It finally said and the female looked happy before running over and starting to eat, the male never let his eyes leave Naruto. The blonde continued to watch with interest as the 2 eat, at first he thought it was some kind of mating fight, but watching the 2 interact, another thought entered his head. She's your sister. He said, causing the Nidorans to look up. You were protecting your sister from those others, right? Watching, the male looked at the female before nodding. Naruto smiled and slowly reached back and pulled out his wallet. I know how you feel. I have a little sister myself. Opening it, Naruto flipped through the few pictures he had until he found the one of Nido sitting on his shoulders. He pulled it out and showed the Nidorans. See, that's her. Nido. The female said as it moved forward to look at the picture, but the male let out a growl and she stopped. Oh come on, if I wanted to hurt you, would I have given you food? Naruto asked with a chuckle. The male was still wary of him but moved in front of its sister and led them close to Naruto. You know I would do anything to protect her too. Naruto said to the male as they looked at the photo. I bet you wish you were strong enough to fight off anything that would harm here. Naruto said as another idea formed in his head. Ran. The male said with a firm nod while the female smiled. Naruto placed the photo down and scratched his chin. You know I can help both of you. The Nidorans gave him confused looks. See, if you let me capture you both I can train you to become strong enough to defeat anyone who might harm your sister. Nido. said the female with an unsure voice. She wanted to get out of this place because the other Nidorans picked on her a lot, but it didn't want to learn to fight like her brother. Oh, not you. Naruto said quickly but with a smile. See, I need someone to go back home and take care of Mido. The Nidoran shared a look. And I can always send you back to see her whenever you want. Naruto informed the male. Nidoran Nido. The male said to his sister, he liked the idea of her being out of danger, well he could get stronger. The female looked at the picture of Mido smiling and back up to Naruto. Nidoran. She said with a nod and Naruto smiled before hopping up. Awesome. He said as he pulled out 2 safari balls. So I'll catch you too and as soon as I'm done here we can send you home to Mido and Kasan. Both Nidorans nodded and Naruto tossed the balls at them, watching them shake just once before they dinged, then disappeared in flashes. Hell yes. Naruto said as he fist pumped the air. Now I have a poison type and if Nidoran wants to become a Nidoking, I'll have a ground type that can take and dish out a lot. Trainers have 45 minutes left to catch Pokemon. Trainers have 45 minutes left to catch Pokemon. Naruto was broken from his thoughts when he heard the announcement and sighed. He knew he was pretty far and decided to head back towards the gate. Well, I only caught 3 Pokemon, but Magikarp and Nidoran will be great additions, plus you can't even find Nidorans in the wild around here. Naruto said to himself as he walked through the brush towards the gate. I wonder what Shino caught. Shrugging, the blonde continued on his way. Naruto fell to the ground as it shook violently. The hell was that? The blonde yelled as he got up and ran through the trees. Coming out in the clearing he saw dust rising from the wall. This isn't good. Naruto said as he ran towards the gate. He didn't know what was going on, but he needed his Pokemon. Collect every Pokemon you can. Naruto turned as he heard a voice yell and saw several men running out from the dust cloud. They all wore black ski masks with grey long sleeve shirts and black and grey camo pants. On each of their chests were black musical notes. Who are these guys? Naruto thought as he sprinted across the clearing. The gate opened and several employees ran out throwing pokeballs as they did. Get everyone inside now. Naruto heard someone yell as others sprinted towards the now cleared dust cloud, which revealed a large hole in the wall. Naruto didn't even listen to what was being yelled as he reached his locker and fumbled with his key to open it and grab his things, stuffing in the fishing pole in. Turning around he saw one of the employees and ran to her. Where are the Pokemon I caught? Naruto said as he approached. The woman gave him an odd look and he growled. In the safari zone. We don't have time to deal with you, get out into safety and we can worry about that later. She yelled at him and turned back to the gate to yell instructions to the people arriving. Damn it. Naruto yelled as he ran past her and back out the gate. Wait, you're going the wrong way. He heard the woman yell, but he ignored her and took in the area as he pushed past everyone. Safari's own personnel were fighting the invaders, but Naruto noticed a fire starting in the trees off to the side near them. There. He said as he ran towards the fire. He didn't know how powerful the invaders were, but he could help put out the fire so the stronger trainers could focus on fighting. Running through the clearing, Naruto arrived at the tree line and was happy to see the fire wasn't too bad yet. Kikrik, Hom, come out. Naruto called as he threw the Pokeball to release his Pokemon. Growl. Froakie. Both Pokemon looked around confused at what was going on. Guys, I don't have time to explain, but Kikrik used bubble on the trees. Han, watch his back, okay? Both Pokemon nodded and Kikrik went to work shooting bubbles at the trees, hoping to keep the flames at bay, while Han started to sniff the air. Growled. Naruto turned as Han barked and saw him pointing with his nose towards the trees. What is it, Han? Naruto asked confused. Lied. It barked and pointed into the trees with its nose more. Naruto saw he looked worried. Is someone in there? Naruto asked as he moved next to the puppy Pokemon and looked into the trees. I don't see anyone. Growled. Han barked again before letting out a whine. Naruto could tell he was getting worried. Kikrik. Naruto turned and called the frog Pokemon over, reaching down to pick him up. Han, lead us, boy. The Pokemon nodded and started leading its trainer into the trees. Naruto grimaced as he saw more trees on fire than he first thought and soon smoke started to block his view. Help. Naruto stopped when he heard a voice call out, but Han ran straight towards it. Where are you? Naruto called out as he followed his Pokemon. Here. I'm stuck. Jumping through a bush, Naruto came across a girl about his age trapped under a large branch that was alight on one side. Please help me. Hold on. Naruto said as he put Kikrik down and moved to the branch, giving it a test lift to check its weight. I think I can lift it but not much, Han. The mentioned Pokemon moved quickly to Naruto. When I lift this you grab hold of her shirt and help get her out, okay? Growled. Han said before jumping over the branch and moving to the girl. Kikrik hit that fire with bubble. The Froakie nodded to the command and shot bubbles at the fire, while Naruto shrugged off his bag and straddled the tree branch. Letting out a breath he crouched down and lifted with all his might. Han now. Han grabbed hold of the girl's shirt and pulled when he heard Naruto's command. The girl did her part and pushed with her hands to help the Growlithe. "I'm free," she said as she saw her feet clear of the branch. Naruto grunted as he dropped the branch and took a few breaths, coughing some from the smoke. "Are you okay?" Naruto asked her as he moved over to inspect her. She had short black hair, with pink eyes, and wore a red long-sleeved shirt with a brown vest and blue jean shorts. "I think I twisted my ankle but I can manage," she said as she held out her hand for Naruto to pull her up. Nodding, the blonde did so and slung her arm over his shoulders. "Let's get out of here," he said as he picked up his bag. "Han, Kikrik, lead the way." Both Pokemon replied with a positive chirp. Kikrik hopped onto Han's back, something they learned they could do on the way to Kusa. Naruto supported the girl as they made their way back towards the gate, Kikrik occasionally using bubble at the trees. "Freedom at last." The girl cried as they walked out of the trees into the clearing. "What the hell?" she quickly said as she saw the large hole in the wall and people fighting. "No idea, let's get you to the gate," Naruto informed her and she didn't argue. "What have we here?" The teens froze as a man carrying a large bag walked out of the forest a few yards away from them. "Two little kitties lost in the woods." "Growlithe," Han barked as he ran in front of Naruto and the injured girl. "Froakie," Kikrik said as he hopped down next to Han ready to attack. "Growlithe and Froakie, those are rare around here," the man said with a dark chuckle as he pulled out a pokeball. "Let's show them our power, Rattata," he yelled as he opened the pokeball. "What is that?" Naruto thought as he saw the Pokemon. Naruto had seen Rattatas before and this one was extremely different. Its eyes were blood red and it had black lines with squares along it all over its bodies. "What the hell is wrong with that Rattata?" the girl asked. The man chuckled at them. "That is one of Team Sound's new cursed Pokemon," he informed them with a wicked laugh. "Who's Team Sound?" the girl asked but Naruto grit his teeth. He had heard of them and it was bad news. "Han, use roar, Kikrik use growl," Naruto quickly ordered. "Growlithe," Han yelled loudly, but the Rattata didn't even flinch. "Fruo," Kikrik called out as strong as it could when it saw its friend's attack fail. "Rattata use Hyper Fang on the Growlithe," the man said as he pointed towards Han. Han dodged with agility, Kikrik hit it with Lick, then escape with Double Team. Naruto ordered quickly as he saw the Rattata's teeth begin to glow. Han quickly moved out of the way of the attack and when the Rattata landed in the open space Kikrik hit it with a Like then jumped back, creating copies of itself as it jumped around the Rattata. Now Han hit it with Ember, while Kikrik has it distracted. Naruto called out. "Growl." Han leapt into the air and shot a fireball at the purple rat. Damn it, Rattata used quick attack to dodge and then break past that Froakie. The sound member ordered with anger in his voice. Rattata shook its head before it covered itself in energy and moved out of the way of the fireball and headed straight for Kikrik. Kikrik jumped away and hit it with Bubble. Kikrik jumped into the air and shot bubbles at the Rattata as it passed underneath it. The rat Pokemon squeaked as it was hit. Han get it with Bite. Han was on it in an instant and clamped down hard on the enemy Pokemon. "Rat." It yelled in pain before Han shook his head and tossed it towards its trainer. "I'm not about to be beat by some punk," the man yelled in anger. He was new to the organization, but if he lost to a kid he would never get promoted. Rattata Hyper Beam that kid. "What?" Naruto said in surprise. He knew Rattatas couldn't learn Hyper Beam, but the small Pokemon was charging it up as he spoke. On instinct Naruto pushed the girl he had saved away before turning to jump the other way. Han, Kikrik dodge. "Rada." The cursed Pokemon screamed as it shot the powerful beam at Naruto, though the force of the attack caused it to slide back. Naruto barely dodged the attack itself, but the blast threw him into a tree head first. Naruto heard shouting as the world faded to black. Naruto suddenly bolted upright and looked around. He was no longer in the safari zone, but what looked like a hospital. "You're awake, good." Naruto turned to see a familiar figure in a chair reading a book. "I was worried you wouldn't wake and I would have to inform Kushina-sama." "What are you doing here, Itachi?" Naruto asked curiously as he looked at Sasuke's older brother. Itachi was pale like Sasuke but had long black hair he pulled back into a ponytail. He wore a black suit with a red tie and a tie pin with the Uchiha clan crest on it. "We had word Team Sound was planning something at the Safari Zone and I have been standing by on your father's orders," Itachi informed him and Naruto suddenly went pale. "Oh shit, you didn't tell Toussaint I'm here, did you? Or worse, Kasan." Suddenly fear gripped the blonde's heart. "Or Bachan." He whispered out and started looking around for any sign of Tsunade. "You think I want that wrath brought down upon me?" Itachi asked in a deadpan. "No, I will leave that to you." Naruto groaned and dropped back onto the bed. How long have I been out? Naruto asked after a minute of silence. 2 days, Shino-san has been taken home. Itachi informed him. He was not injured but was somewhat shaken up by the experience. Naruto nodded in understanding. Shino wasn't a fighter and was only a trainer to gain some experience before taking over the clan from his father. My Pokemon. Naruto suddenly said and moved to jump out of the bed, but Itachi was quicker and held him down. Easy now, I collected them. Itachi went over to his chair and pulled up Naruto's backpack. I arrived in time to see you barely dodge the hyper beam. Your Pokemon were rather protective, but when I mentioned you parents your Froakie let me bring you here. Itachi handed Naruto the backpack. I also assumed you had caught a few Pokemon in the Safari Zone and checked. I put them in the regular Pokeballs. I hope that is fine. Yay. Naruto said with a sigh of relief. He was worried he had broken his promise to the Nidorans. Pulling them out he saw a sticker of the male and female symbol on 2 Pokeballs, while another had a teardrop. This Magikarp? Naruto asked as he held up the teardrop stickered ball. Yes, I am surprised you caught one. Itachi said with a nod. Why? Magikarps become one of the most powerful Pokemon out there. Naruto said with a grin. Itachi let out a chuckle. Yes they do, though it takes an extremely dutiful trainer to do that. Itachi replied. He knew many trainers had tried what Naruto was going to try, but almost all lost hope or patience before the Pokemon evolved. BSH, nothing worth doing is quick. Naruto said with a wave of his hand. So what was up with that attack? Itachi let out a sigh and leaned back in his chair, not sure what he could tell Naruto. Do you know about Team Sound? Itachi guessed he did but wanted to be sure. Yet Jiji and Toussaint would discuss them occasionally at home, and I overheard some. Naruto said with a nod, though he didn't know much, just that they stole Pokemon in large quantities. That guy mentioned something about cursed Pokemon and his Rattata could use Hyper Beam. Itachi nodded. Team Sound is a group that are trying to create the strongest Pokemon in the world through genetic experiments. They are somehow creating Pokemon that can learn attacks they shouldn't be able to. The older Uchiha sighed and stood from his seat. I must be on my way and report to Minato-sama about the attack. I will let him know you are fine, but please call your mother. Naruto gulped but nodded his head as Itachi waved goodbye and headed out the door. Naruto sighed and took up Kikrix and Han's Pokeballs. I'm out guys. Naruto said as he released his friends after they formed the duo launched themselves at the blonde. Growl. Fro. Both called out as they licked him, causing the blonde to start to laugh. Cut it out, come on stop. Naruto said between laughs. After a few seconds he was able to push them off enough to sit up again. It's good to see you guys too, I'm glad you're okay. Naruto said as he petted both of them. You're awake. The trio all looked at the door to see the girl from the Safari Zone in the doorway holding a grocery bag. You just woke up. Naruto said with a nod. How's your ankle? He asked as he looked down to see it was wrapped. Fine, just a slight sprain. She said as she walked in, but Naruto saw she favored her good foot. Doctor said it probably seemed worse because I was scared and in shock from almost dying. She said with a shrug before smiling at Naruto. I never did than you by the way. It was nothing, honestly Hom is the one who hurt you. Naruto said as he patted the Growlithe, who puffed up his chest from the praise. He's the one you should thank. Well Uchiha-san said you like ramen so I've been bringing some by every day in case you woke up. She said as she held up the bag, faster than any of them saw Naruto was in front of her grabbing the bag. Thank you. He said before pulling out a container and opening it, taking a big whiff of the food. Ramen, the food of Arceus. Naruto proceeded to inhale the food, causing the girl to stare at him wide-eyed. Holy crap, he wasn't kidding. She said slightly amused. By the way, how do you know Itachi Uchiha of the Elite Four? Naruto said as he looked up, he quickly swallowed his mouthful to answer her question. Family friend. He replied before starting to eat the second helping in the bag. So you're from Konoha and that was mine by the way. Naruto froze mid-bite and looked over at her. Go ahead, it's the least I could do. Naruto smiled before quickly finishing the meal. You're Naruto Namikaze aren't you? Yay. Naruto said as he finished the ramen. How did you know? He wasn't unaware his family was famous and people recognized him all the time. Name's Kuretsuchi Ishii. She said as she held her hand out. Nice to meet you. Naruto stared at her for a second. Ishii as in Lenoki Ishii, Iwa gym leader and Katsuchi Ishii, world-class trainer and master of rock-type Pokemon. Seeing her nod Naruto wondered how weird the world could be. So your dad hates my dad and I just saved your life, do we have more ramen? Kuretsuchi chuckled and shook her head. Sorry, I didn't think you needed that much and I wouldn't say Toussaint hates your father, just strongly dislikes him. Naruto shrugged. He was used to people hating his father, not because he was a bad person, but the fact to become champion, he had to beat a lot of trainers and crush a lot of dreams. Something I'm going to have to do. Naruto thought before looking back at Kuretsuchi. Anyway, I think it's high time I get out of here. Naruto said as he gathered his things. Even growing up with a doctor for a grandmother, he was uncomfortable with hospitals and didn't like being in them. Why are you still in town? Was it just to wait for me to wake up? Naruto asked curiously. Well, that and the doctors said I had to take it easy. She said as she held up her leg. I was told to wait to head home until it was healed since I'm on my own. Naruto sat there for a minute thinking. Well, Shino is gone and I'm heading that way. He thought before turning to Kuretsuchi. Of course I don't really know her. What? She asked as she saw Naruto staring at her. Well, I was actually heading to Iowa and thought if you wanted you could tag along. Naruto replied rather timidly, though he wasn't sure why. I mean that way you won't have to worry about accidentally hurting yourself again. Kuretsuchi blinked in surprise but smiled. I would like that. She wouldn't admit it, but after the incident she was a little nervous about traveling alone. So where we heading, hero? Naruto raised an eyebrow at the nickname but sighed and turned to the door. I do most likely. Naruto muttered. Kuretsuchi gave him a confused look as he returned Ham and Kikrik to their pokeballs. The pink-eyed girl shrugged and followed after the blonde, noting he was avoiding the nurses and doctors rather well. It's like he's had training just to avoid them. Kuretsuchi wondered as she saw Naruto duck into a room just as a few nurses walked around the corner and then past him. Soon enough they were out of the hospital and heading to the poke center. I figured Itachi-san would have had your Pokemon healed. Kuretsuchi asked confused. He did. Naruto replied over his shoulder. I need to send a Pokemon home and talk to my Kasan like I was supposed to 3 days ago. Naruto muttered the last part, but Kuretsuchi still heard him and cracked a smile. She followed him over to the vid phones and watched as he took a breath before dialing a number. She assumed his house number. Namika's residence. Kushina said as she appeared on the screen. Naruto. She cried happily. Did you just get to Kusa? Thank Arceus, I thought you would get caught up in everything that happened there. Naruto let out a nervous chuckle and turned his head to avoid eye contact. Kushina noticed this and narrowed her eyes. Naruto. Her tone was firm and Naruto let out a sigh. Well, you see, Naruto began his story, telling his mother about everything about the incident. After he finished he looked at the screen and saw Kushina looking at him with a blank face, which made him more nervous. I'm not happy with you. Naruto stated. However, it seems you were at least smart enough to avoid fighting until you had to. Naruto let out a sigh of relief. Is the girl alright? Yes, ma'am. Kuretsuchi had been listening quietly but moved into view. Oh, hello. Kushina blinked in surprise. Are you alright? Yes, just a slight sprain that I need to be watchful of. Kuretsuchi replied. Kushina gave her a small smile and nod, then turned to Naruto. So other than that, how has your journey been? Naruto smiled and pulled up his filled pokeballs. Great. I caught Ham, a Growlithe, a few hours after leaving. Then in the safari zone I got 2 Nidorans, 1 female and 1 male. Naruto said with a smile. Oh, and is Mito home? Kushina smiled at how happy Naruto was and a bit surprised by the Pokemon he had already. She's outside swimming with the Porian Y. I made a promise and it kind of involved her, well, more you but with her help. Naruto explained vaguely. Kushina cocked an eyebrow but nodded. Mito. Your brother wants to talk to you. Kushina yelled off to the side. Naruto and Kuretsuchi heard a cheerful squeal before a door slamming. Seconds later Mito was standing on a chair Kushina pulled up for her hair soaking wet. Hi Oni-chan, how are you? Have you caught a lot of Pokemon yet? What are they? When are you coming home so I can see them? Naruto chuckled as Mito speed through the questions, never giving him a chance to answer. Slow down Mito-chan. The little retard blushed with embarrassment. Naruto reached down and pulled out the 2 Nidoran's pokeballs. Nidoran. Both said as they were released and looked around the area. Hey, sorry it took so long, but it's time to make good on my promise. Naruto said as he reached down and picked up the female first followed by her brother so Mito and Kushina could see both. Cool. Mito said as she moved closer to the screen, thinking she could see the Pokemon better. Now Mito, I have something very important to ask you. Naruto started to say. Mito moved back in surprise but paid attention to Naruto. See Nidoran here. Naruto patted the female. Doesn't want to train and fight like her brother but also didn't want to be separated. I was hoping you would take care of her for me while me and her brother travel and occasionally I would send him back to see her. Naruto smiled as he saw his sister's eyes light up. Can you take care of her for me if I send her? Yes. Mito yelled as she jumped with joy. I can take extra good care of her, we'll have so much fun, we can go swimming and play at the park. You can even meet Hanabi-chan. Mito said as she smiled to the female Nidoran. Even though she acts like she has a stick up her butt sometimes. Mito. Kushina yelled. She's really cool. Mito sighed ignoring her mother. And I can take you on walks and maybe even sneak you into school so you don't have to sit around all day by yourself. Naruto chuckled as Kushina let out a sigh. The Nidorans were staring with wide eyes at the excited girl, and the female seemed happy someone was wanting her to be her friend. "So will you come stay with me?" Mito asked with a big smile. "Do." The female replied with a big smile, causing Mito to cheer and jump in her chair. "So I'll send her over Kasan." Naruto said loudly over his sister. Kushina just nodded instead of trying to reply. Looking down, Naruto placed the Pokemon of his lap and onto the floor. "Alright, I know it's hard, but time to say goodbye for now." The two Nidorans nodded and the female jumped forward to nuzzle her brother. "Nidoran," she said softly while the male smiled. "Nido," he said with a firm nod before backing up. Naruto took his cue and returned her to her ball. "Alright Kasan, I'm sending her over," Naruto said as he placed the ball into the transport slot and punched the button. Since his father was the champion and his mother a famous coordinator, they were allowed to have a transport option on their phones. "Got her," Kushina said with a smile as she held up the Pokeball. "Let her out, let her out, let her out," Mito said as she jumped up, attempting to grab the Pokeball. "I'll talk to you later Kasan, I think you have your hands full," Naruto said with a chuckle. "Bye sweetie, love you," Kushina said with a smile before ending the connection. Kuritsuchi smiled as she watched the whole event unfold. While somewhat surprised by Naruto's actions with the Nidorans, she realized she shouldn't have been. After all, anyone willing to go into a forest fire to save someone they didn't know couldn't be a bad person. "So what's the plan?" "Well," Naruto said with an embarrassed chuckle as he returned Nidoran. "My plan was to travel and train on the way to get the mountain badge. Hopefully find a grass type to help." He wondered what she would say about that. "Good plan," the pink-eyed girl replied as she tapped her chin. "Route 33 would take more time, but you would see more wild Pokemon that way." Naruto looked surprised at her. "Wait, you're okay with me going to fight your grandfather?" Kuritsuchi looked at him confused. He's a gym leader, that's his job." Naruto's sweat dropped and chuckled, embarrassed he had forgotten that fact. "Well, that sounds good," Naruto said as he recovered. "Shall we?" Nodding, Kuritsuchi took the lead and headed out the door for Route 33. Naruto stood looking at the giant map at the start of Route 33. It was a large forested area with a snake-like trail cut through it and into the mountains. Rivers were on both sides of it and a few streams broke off into the trail and created small ponds and one large lake. Kuritsuchi stood behind him with her arms crossed and tapping her foot. "What are we doing?" she asked with a hint of annoyance. "I'm looking at a map and figuring out the best place to train and find some wild Pokemon," Naruto said as he looked over his shoulder. "You're tapping your foot in annoyance." The girl rolled her eyes and let out an annoyed sigh. "Can't we just take the trail and stop when we find a good spot?" "No," Naruto said with a shake of his head and pointed at the map. "See, Pokemon avoid the trails unless they want to, and usually the strong ones avoid humans. Plus I need a lake or stream to train my water types, so I'm figuring the best spot is here." He tapped a spot on the map just off the highlighted trail. "That lake isn't too big, but enough Pokemon should drink from it or hang out there." Kuritsuchi cocked an eyebrow, she was a little impressed with his clever display. "Sounds good to me," she said as she adjusted her backpack and started walking up the trail. "So why were you in the safari zone?" Naruto asked as he caught up to her. He figured if they were going to travel together, he might as well get to know her some. "I assumed you were a rock-type trainer and didn't think there were any in the safari zone." "First, just because I'm related to rock-type trainers you shouldn't assume I am one." Naruto looked sheepish at her words. "Gigi heard there were a few Pseudo-Udo in the safari zone and asked me to go catch him one." She let out a sigh. "Unfortunately I wasn't able to find one." "Well, do you want to go back and try again?" Naruto asked as he stopped and looked back towards Kusa. "Seriously?" Kuritsuchi asked as she gave him a confused look. "Remember crazy terrorist guys, giant hole in the wall?" "And?" Naruto said with a shrug. Kuritsuchi's sweat dropped. "They closed the safari zone down for repairs," she answered with a sigh. "Ooh," Naruto said, finally understanding. "Well, hope your gramps won't be too upset." The pink-eyed girl shrugged and started walking again. "Don't give a crap, if he wanted one so bad he should have gotten off his lazy ass and gone." Naruto chuckled and did a quick jog to catch up with her. "So do you specialize in any type or going with a variation team?" Naruto asked to get back to his original questions. "I only have one Pokemon right now," she said as she unclipped her Pokeball and held it up. "What about you?" "Well, with not counting the Nidoran I sent to my sister I have 4. Naruto said with a grin. "I'm going for a variety team, that way no one can plan to beat me easily." Kuritsuchi nodded as she placed her Pokeball back on its clip. "Good plan, but that means you have a lot more work in training them." "Nothing that's worth doing is easy," Naruto replied with a grin. "True," Kuritsuchi said with a nod of her head. "So I've seen your Growlithe, Froakie and Nidoran, but what's your fourth?" Naruto's grin increased. "A Magikarp." Kuritsuchi stopped and blinked at Naruto. You're serious? Naruto nodded. Why would you waste your time on a Magikarp? Because having a Gyarados will be a huge asset in the future. Naruto replied seriously. They can travel great distances without rest and are large enough I can ride him. Plus they're powerhouses. But only like 1 in every 100 ever evolve into Gyarados. Kuretsuchi stated, still perplexed by Naruto's idea. 1 in every 200 actually. Naruto replied as he started walking again. And that's really just facts about wild ones, I'm sure I'll be able to do it. You're insane. She said with a shake of her head. I'm traveling with an insane person. I'll bet you I can do it. Naruto replied with a smirk. Oh yeah? Kuretsuchi replied with a smirk of her own. And what will we be wagering? Naruto shrugged and she let out a hum while she thought. I know. She said with a snap of her fingers. If you can't you have to pay for my meals for a week. And if I win you have to pay me and Mito's raiment bill for a week. Naruto replied casually. Kuretsuchi thought about it, even if Naruto could eat 6 bowls, which she figured was a lot for someone his size, and his sister ate around 2, it would still be cheaper than her meals. Deal. She said as she stuck out her hand and they shook on it. XXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXX Namika's residence, Konoha XXXXXXXXXXXXX. Kushina watched from the couch as Mito and Naruto's Nidoran, now named Ljo, colored and watched TV. The two had been inseparable since Naruto had sent Ljo to them. Kushina was happy as it was making Mito act more responsible. Suddenly Mito stopped coloring and sat up, looking out the window. What is it, sweetie? Kushina asked as she closed her book. The little red head stared at the window for a second before she answered. I think something amazing just happened, Ka-san. Kushina raised an eyebrow in confusion, but before she could ask Mito to explain the phone rang. Kushina got up as Mito went back to coloring, picking up Minato's face came on the screen. Hey Ku-chan, I was thinking of picking up ramen for dinner, that okay? Ramen? Mito yelled as she appeared in front of the phone. I want 12 bowls too, san. Minato chuckled as Kushina let out a sigh. Nai. Ljo said as she tilted her head to the side in confusion. Oh, and 3 bowls for Ljo-chan. Mito responded as she realized her friend was there, ramen was very distracting to Anamika's after all. So the usual for Mito. Minato said as he wrote down the order. Ku-chan. 20 is fine for me. Kushina answered with a smile. Tell Tucci-sen I said hello. Will do. Minato replied with a nod. He's going to be sad we won't be ordering the usual 25 for Naruto. Oh poor him. Kushina responded with a smirk as she cut the connection, her mind now focused on dinner and not on the strange behavior of her daughter moments ago. XXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXX Route 33, Kusa XXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXX forest clearing just off the lake. They had been traveling on the trail for 2 hours before they cut into the woods and made their way towards the small lake. I agree. Naruto said with a nod as he dropped his backpack and pulled out his pokeballs. Come on out guys. He called out as he tossed 3 towards the ground and 1 to the lake. Ralph. Fro. Ran. Harp. All of the Pokemon appeared, though only Magikarp looked around confused. Han and Kikrik both jumped at Naruto, knocking him down, and proceeded to lick him. Ah. Down guys geez. Naruto said through laughter as he pushed off the Pokemon. Nidoran and Magikarp watched from the sidelines along with Kuretsuchi, who was giggling at the scene. Han, Kikrik, these are our new friends Magikarp and Nidoran. Naruto said as he pointed to the new Pokemon. Han and Kikrik both turned around and studied their new companions. Nidoran raised himself up to give off his best impression of strength. Magikarp simply stared at them all from the water, still trying to wrap his head around the fact someone was excited at catching him. Han walked over to Nidoran, who watched him carefully and started to sniff him. Ralph. Han barked before licking Nidoran and running over to the water, where he paused and whimpered at it while looking at Magikarp. Fro. Kairyu said as he leapt into the water and began swimming around Magikarp. Harp. Magikarp said as the frog Pokemon happily swam around him. They seemed to be getting along. Kuretsuchi said as she walked over to Naruto and helped him off the ground. Yep. Naruto said with a large smile as he brushed off his pants and reached into his backpack for his Pokédex. Now let's see what I have to work with. The blonde walked over to the water and aimed at Nidoran first. Let's see level 9, so in the same range as Kikrik and Han, that's good, nose leer, peck, focus energy, double kick, and has the ability poison point. Pretty good move list for him. Kuretsuchi said from Naruto's side. Nidoran seemed to smirk at the comment. Neato. He said with a nod. Alright, don't get a big head Nidoran. Naruto said with a chuckle as he turned to Magikarp. Magikarp the fish Pokemon. In the distant past, it was somewhat stronger than the horribly weak descendants that exist today. This Magikarp is male and registered to Naruto Namikaze of Konoha. Magikarp seemed to deflate at its description. What the hell? Everyone jumped at Naruto's shout. Who the hell allowed them to say such things about a Pokemon? Naruto, chill out. Kuretsuchi said, she was surprised at how upset he was. No, this is ridiculous. Naruto snapped his Pokédex shut. First thing we're doing when we get back to a Pokécenter is calling my father, like hell I'm letting this slide. Magikarp. Naruto stopped and looked over at the water. Magikarp was watching him and had a sad look in his eyes. Naruto dropped his gear and pulled his shoes off, rolled up his pants and walked into the water, squatting down in front of Magikarp. I know everyone thinks you might not be that great, but I know you have the potential to become great. Naruto said with a smile. Will it be easy? No, we will have to work hard and you might lose some battles, but I'll always be there to help you learn from them. Froakie. Lied. Nidoran. Magikarp looked past Naruto to see the other Pokemon all smiling at him. So what do you say, Magikarp? The fish Pokemon turned back to Naruto. If you don't want to train I will free you or even transfer you to my house where you can swim around all day. Naruto then pointed to the others. Or you can stay with us and train to become the best. Magikarp floated in place staring up at Naruto for what seemed like minutes, he was trying to wrap his head around what was happening. Did he want to become strong? Of course he did. Did he hope to evolve? What Magikarp didn't, but he never in his wildest dreams thought he would find a trainer wanting to train him. Not only that, but Magikarp noticed Naruto didn't once mention wanting a Gyarados just to train him. Magi. Wah! Naruto yelled as Magikarp leapt out of the water and talked him into it. Magikarp began swimming around Naruto happily as the trainer chuckled. Welcome aboard, buddy. The other Pokemon cheered from the shore, Kikrik jumped back into the water and swam around with Magikarp as Naruto got out of the water. I think I'm going to be losing that bet. Kuretsuchi thought to herself as she watched the scene. She was finding herself more and more surprised by the blonde. Okay guys, fun time is over. Naruto called out as he got out of the lake. Han, you take Nidoran and do as many laps around the lake as you two can. Growl. Han replied with a nod and looked to Nidoran, who nodded to him, the two then took off and began their exercise. Kikrik, I want you to swim around the lake with Magikarp as many times as you two can, alright? Naruto ordered his water types. Hi. The frog Pokemon said as he nudged Magikarp and the two began to swim. And I'm going to change into dry clothes. Naruto mumbled as he walked towards his bag and pulled off his jacket and shirt. Kuretsuchi blushed as she watched a now shirtless blonde. He wasn't ripped but had almost no fat on him and was well toned. I think I'll go look for some food while you train, okay? The pink-eyed girl said as she quickly turned so Naruto wouldn't see her blushing. You going to be okay by yourself? Naruto asked as he rummaged through his gear for fresh clothes. Kuretsuchi pulled her pokeball of her belt and tossed it. Come on out, Kakengan. Naruto watched as the light took the shape of a small quadruped Pokemon with 4 stubby legs and a large round head. Its body is black with plates of gray armor covering its head, back, and legs. Throughout its body are small openings in the armor, 6 openings were on its head, with the largest 2 being openings for its pale blue eyes, and 1 opening on either side of the spike on its back. Aaron. The small Pokemon called out as it scurried back to Kuretsuchi and nuzzled her leg. Hello girl. Kuretsuchi said as she picked up her Pokemon and turned her to face Naruto. Kakengan, say hello to Naruto, we're going to be traveling with him for a bit. The small Pokemon looked at Naruto for a few seconds, the blonde could tell he was being inspected. Aaron. She said with a nod, seeming to say she was okay with the plan. Hello Kakengan. Naruto replied with a chuckle and pulled out his Pokédex. Aaron, the iron armor Pokemon. This Pokemon has a body of steel. To make its body, Aaron feeds on iron ore that it digs from mountains. Occasionally, it causes major trouble by eating bridges and rails. This Aaron is female and is registered to Kuretsuchi Ishii of Iowa. Wait, I thought you said you didn't train rock-type Pokemon. Naruto shot her a confused look as he read over Aaron's information. I never said that. Kuretsuchi responded with a smirk as she turned and walked towards the forest. I just said you shouldn't assume I trained them just because I am from a family of rock-type trainers. But you, and Naruto started to say, then just sighed and shook his head in defeat. Just be careful, alright? Will do. Kuretsuchi called back with a wave of her hand. Naruto watched her go and then quickly changed into dry clothes, hanging his wet ones up to dry out before pulling out his notebook and beginning to think up training schedules for his Pokemon. Keep up that flame, Han. Naruto called out to his Growlithe. After they had all rested from their run, he divided them up and began working on their attacks. If you can learn to use fire while biting, will be able to do Fire Fang. Bro. Han barked as he brought fire up to his mouth but didn't spit it out and attacked a stick, snapping it in half with the attack. Naruto nodded as he turned and looked around the field. Nidoran was headbutting a tree not only to toughen himself but to learn to use his poison for poison sting. He had Kickrook running and attacking to learn quick attack. Naruto wanted to focus on the non-water type moves to fight the local grass types. Finally, he had Magikarp still swimming to strengthen his muscles for when he might battle. How's it going? Naruto turned around and saw Kuritsuchi walking back into the clearing with her Aaron and holding a plastic bag. Good, where did you find a Pokemart at around here? Naruto asked as she walked over. Keep an extra bag in my pack for collecting food. Kuritsuchi answered as she sat down and leaned against a tree. Found some berries for dinner. Alright guys, let's take a break. Naruto yelled out. All his Pokémon stopped their drills and ran over to the teen, except for Magikarp who couldn't get on land. Naruto walked over to the bag and dug inside, noting what berries they now had, and found a couple Leppa berries. Here you go Magikarp. Naruto said as he tossed a few into the water for his Pokémon. Carp carp carp. Magikarp cried as he swam and gulped up the berries. Okay diggin' guys. Naruto said as he started dividing up berries for all the Pokémon and then him and Kuritsuchi. So did you have any trouble? No, saw a couple Oddish, Rattata and Petalil, but they ran off when they heard me. Kuritsuchi replied before biting into a berry. So did you make any progress in training? Well, I think they all have almost got another move down, should have them by tonight. Naruto answered as he looked at all his Pokémon. Then I'm going to have them battle each other for a bit to get some experience using the moves before finding some wild Pokémon to battle. Good plan, say what level are all of them? Kuritsuchi waved to all the Pokémon. Pickrick is level 9, Han 10, Nidoran level 9. Naruto then smirked. And Magikarp is level 15. Kuritsuchi choked on her food. Are you serious? Naruto nodded, never losing his smirk. What the hell? I can taste the ramen already. Naruto said with a faraway look in his eye. So what's your grandfather like? You mean what his fighting style is like, don't you? Kuritsuchi shot back with a grin. Naruto looked sheepish, but the dark-haired girl waved him off. It's cool. It's fun to watch the old man lose. Naruto's sweat dropped. Anyway, Jiji is a stereotype. He focuses on defense and lets his opponents wear themselves out, then finishes them off. Naruto nodded along and mentally started thinking about the training again. Alright, I already was working on Kickrook speed and endurance, so that's a plus, got to work on his power next. What level are his Pokémon? Depends on who he's fighting. Kuritsuchi answered with a shrug. What? Naruto responded with a confused look. Oh right, your family aren't gym leaders. Kuritsuchi said as she realized why he was confused. See, your grandfather and father are supposed to always be the best of the best, always using their best Pokémon to battle. But gym leaders need to allow people to beat them, so they have to have Pokémon of various levels so they can fight any challenger. Oh, yay, that makes sense. Naruto said with a nod. I mean, there's no way to know when in a journey someone would come to him. Exactly. Kuritsuchi exclaimed. So anyway, all the gym leaders do this, but they can also choose how low they will start. Kuritsuchi explained. Jiji never fights with a Pokémon under level 10. Wait, how do they know my Pokémon levels? Naruto asked as he thought over the information. Their Pokédex. Kuritsuchi replied as she grabbed another berry. When you register to challenge, it logs the levels of your Pokémon, that way the leaders don't know what you'll use but have an idea of their levels. So if I have one at 15 and the rest at 10, what would they do? Naruto was interested in the whole system and wondered why they didn't teach it in the academy. Well, Jiji would get his best Pokémon near level 15 and the rest would be between. Kuritsuchi said after a second of thought. Growlithe. Naruto turned as Han nudged his side. What's up, boy? Naruto asked. Han turned and looked to the area he had been training in. Oh, you want to go back to training? Growl. Han replied with a nod. Alright, go ahead, I'll watch form here. Han nodded and ran back to his training area. Do you two want to go as well? Naruto asked Nidoran and Kickrook, who both replied with nods. Go on then. Naruto chuckled as the Pokémon all ran happily to train more. So how many Pokémon does your grandpa use? Depends on how many challengers he's had that day, usually 3. Kuritsuchi answered. Any more questions? No. Naruto shook his head. That all helps, so does Kakengan want to train too? Kuritsuchi looked down and rubbed her Pokémon's back, getting a happy purr. Maybe a battle tomorrow, I'm honestly not much of a trainer and have either Tusen or Jiji train her. Naruto cocked his head to the side in confusion. Well, how are you going to become a better trainer? Kuritsuchi shrugged. Not really sure I want to be a trainer. I only went to the academy so I could keep Kakengan. Oh well, alright. Naruto wasn't sure how to respond to that, so he started to eat again. The duo fell into an awkward silence while they ate, though Kuretsuchi wasn't sure why she was suddenly self-conscious about her life choices. Naruto suddenly missed the days when he just worried about his sister waking him up in the morning. Now he had 3 Pokémon jumping on him as the sun peeked through the trees. Alright, I'm up. Naruto groaned out as he pushed his Pokémon off. Come on, I'll make breakfast. He said as he grabbed Magikarp's Pokeball so he could release him. Naruto then threw on his clothes and unzipped the tent. He stretched as he walked outside and looked around. A few Rattata looked up from their grazing and dashed off into the trees as they saw Naruto. The blonde chuckled and walked over to the gray tent Kuretsuchi was in and scratched at the tent. Hey Kuretsuchi, you up? Naruto said, though he didn't want to talk too loud in case she was still asleep. Unfortunately. Naruto replied, his voice was thicker and Naruto could tell she had just woken up. Naruto chuckled and walked around the edge of the clearing, picking up some sticks and kindling, before stacking them in the pit he dug for a fire the night before. Han, come here boy. Naruto called out to his Growlithe, who came running over. Light this for me? He asked pointing to the fire. Growlithe. Han responded before firing off an ember and lighting the wood. Naruto scratched the Pokemon's ear and sent him off to the others as he started cooking breakfast. Eventually Kuretsuchi came out of her tent, still looking tired but ready for the day. Smells good. She said with a smile as she plopped down near the fire. Thanks. Naruto replied as he started moving some of the food onto some plates. How did you sleep? Well enough. Kuretsuchi answered as she quickly snatched up one of the plates. Didn't bring my good sleeping bag because I thought it would be a quick trip. Naruto hummed in thought as he filling the plates. Come and get it guys. The Pokémon quickly ran over and started eating their food while Naruto grabbed one of the remaining plates and took it to the lake for Magikarp. So what's the plan for today, more training? Kuretsuchi asked, though she was enjoying the food too much to look up at the blonde. Not today, I'm going to head back to the trail and try to get a couple battles in. Naruto informed her as he picked up his own plate. I made a plate for Kakengan too by the way. Kuretsuchi looked up and smiled at the plate before pulling out Kakengan's ball and releasing the steel rock-type Pokémon, who cheered with glee at the food before she dug in. The teens chuckled at Kakengan before going back to eating. Kikrik though hopped over to Kakengan and ate next to her, trying to be friendly. You cook so I'll clean. Kuretsuchi said after they had all finished their food. Naruto wasn't about to argue and headed over towards the lake, his Pokémon all right behind him. See, I told you I smelled something. Naruto and Kuretsuchi looked up to see a group of 4 teens, 3 girls and 1 guy walking into the clearing. The girl who spoke had short brown hair and was wearing a loose-fitting short-sleeved green shirt and khaki capris. The other 2 girls were twins with dark blonde hair that flowed past their shoulders. One girl had a blue streak on the right side of her hair, while the other had a red. Both wore white short-sleeved shirts with pokeballs on the front and dark blue jeans. The boy had short brown hair that he had spiked up in the front and wore a light blue track jacket with a white undershirt and dark blue jeans like the twin girls. Yeah, you were right, Rin. Rin gave her friends a triumphant smirk and they turned and waved to Naruto and Kuretsuchi. Hi. Naruto looked over to Kuretsuchi, who shrugged, then back to the newcomers. Hey. He gave a small wave. What are you guys doing all the way out here? The guy asked before spotting Naruto's Pokémon. Whoa, is that a Growlithe? And a Nidoran? Naruto cocked an eyebrow as the teens all pulled out Pokédex and scanned his Pokémon. He also wondered if that was how he got when he saw new Pokémon. So cool. Rin said in awe. Wait, Namikaze. Naruto froze in his place as the teens looked up. Suddenly the boy was in front of Naruto, grabbing his hands. Are you related to Minato Namikaze, the elemental region champion? The boy asked in an excited voice. Naruto nodded and the boy jumped back. Battle me. Okay. Naruto replied with a shrug as he started walking back towards Kuretsuchi, putting more space between him and the boy. What's your name? Kyoji Seiko. He answered as he pulled out a Pokeball and enlarged it. I only have 2 Pokémon, so will 2 versus 2 work? Sounds good to me. Naruto looked over to Kuretsuchi. Can you act as the referee for us? Sure. The dark-haired girl answered as she jumped up. Wait, how do I know she's going to call it fair? The blue-streaked twin asked as the girls moved towards Kyoji. Yeah. Her twin replied with the same tone. First off, if she doesn't, one of you would, so it's no different. Naruto pointed out, making the twins blush from embarrassment. And just so you know, we've only known each other for a few days, so I doubt she's going to be unfair. Plus. Kuritsuchi cut in, a bit annoyed at the teens. I'm the granddaughter of gym leader Lenoki Ishii, so I won't be embarrassing him by being unfair. The statement caused the group to gasp, and the twins shuffled on their feet to avoid the pink-eyed gaze. Now that we have that cleared up, Naruto said with a chuckle. Let's do this. Right, this will be a 2 versus 2 battle. Kurisuchi called out. Kyoji Seiko versus Naruto Namikaze, trainers ready. Both boys nodded. Begin. Kyryu, you're up. Naruto called out, the Froakie croaked happily and jumped forward. Come on out, Pansage. Kyoji called out, he released a simian-like, green and cream Pokemon. It had oval black eyes, large ears with light green insides, and a tiny black nose. There was a broccoli-like sprout atop its head. In the sprout's foliage are 3 yellow tapered seed-like shapes. Ha, I have the advantage here. Kyoji said with a smirk. Naruto grinned back, earning a confused look from Kyoji. The blonde was happy to put Kyryu against the Pansage so he could toughen up better. We'll see, Kikrik used double team followed by lick. Fro. Kikrik called out as he created images of himself and hopped towards his opponent, shooting his tongue out when he got close. Dodge Pansage and responded with Vine Whip. Kyoji ordered, his Pokemon nodded and jumped back from Kikrik as 2 vines appeared from him and speed towards the frog Pokemon. Fortunately for Naruto, they hit the images of his Froakie and Kikrik had enough sense to jump back. Use Growl. Naruto called out to his Pokemon. Froakie. Kikrik growled out with power, sending a shiver up the Pansage's body. Use Leer and then move in attacking with Vine Whip. Kyoji ordered out. Pansage's eyes glowed and caused Kikrik to flinch in fear for a second and in that second hit the frog Pokemon with its vines. Shit, Kikrik, you okay? Naruto asked his Pokemon as it shook its head to clear it. Hi. The blue Pokemon cried before narrowing its eyes at Pansage. Alright buddy, hit it with quick attack. Kikrik followed its trainer's order and quickly hit the Pansage, who was too close to dodge and flew back from the hit. Pansage. Kyoji called out in worry but let out a breath as Pansage got up, albeit a little shaky. Hit him with Scratch and then Lick. Kikrik confused it with Double Team and then hit him with Pound. Naruto ordered out to counter Kyoji. Pansage moved as fast as it could but stopped when it saw the multiple Froakies moving around it. It spun around trying to figure out which one was the real but was hit from behind before it could. Pan. It called out as it hit the ground. Pansage, get up. Kyoji called out, his Pokemon tried its best too but was hurt. Kikrik hit him with Lick. Naruto called out wanting to finish this fight. Froakie. Kikrik said before hitting the Pansage with its tongue, making the simian Pokemon cry out again. Kikrik jumped back and watched the other Pokemon, waiting to see if it would get up. Pansage is unable to battle. Kuritsuchi called out after a few seconds of watching. Winner, Kikrik. Naruto grinned and shook his fist slightly in victory. Trainer, release your next Pokemon. Kyoji returned his Pansage with a frown, he wasn't displeased with its performance, but upset he lost. He shrunk the ball and grabbed his remaining Pokemon, he was hoping to have just used Pansage because this one was still new and he hadn't had time to train her. Let's go, Oddish. The light from the Pokeball took the shape of a blue plant bulb with a round body, beady red eyes, and oval foot-like roots. 5 large green leaves sprout from its head. Oddish. It said before looking around and seeing Kikrik. Alright Oddish, time for a battle. Kikrik asked with a smile, then looked up to Naruto. The small Pokemon turned and saw Kikrik and smiled. Oddish. It said with a hop. Spirited little thing. Naruto said quietly to himself before looking at Kikrik. Kikrik, tap out, Nidoran, you're up. Nido. Nidoran cried as he ran forward and took a ready position facing Oddish. Kikrik quickly jumped back to Naruto, thought the blonde could see his starter was tired and squatted down to pet him. Great job Kikrik, go get some rest, alright. Naruto rubbed the frog Pokemon's head, earning a purr before he straightens up. Alright Nidoran, let's show them what we can do. Ran. Nidoran said as he scratched at the ground ready to fight. Kyoji and Oddish gulped, both knew they were outmatched in this, but Kyoji didn't want to back down. Trainers ready. Kuritsuchi broke them from their thoughts, getting a nod from both trainers. Begin. Nidoran leer and then hit it with Peck. Naruto quickly ordered his Pokemon. Quick absorb Oddish. Kyoji called out in a desperate attempt to keep this from a one-hit knockout. Nidoran. Nidoran called out as his eyes flashed with power, causing Oddish to step back with a squeak. Nidoran then sprinted forward and attempted to hit the grass Pokemon. The leaves on Oddish began to glow and a ball of energy shot towards Nidoran, the poison Pokemon dodged and closed the distance to Oddish, striking the grass type quickly. Odd. Oddish called as it stumbled back and hit the ground, looking up its eyes started to tear up. Odd Oddish. It yelled as it started to cry. Naruto said as he turned to Kuritsuchi, who looked equally confused as to what to do. Nidoran sat down on the ground and looked back at his trainer, clearly confused on what to do. Sorry. Kyoji said as he moved forward and picked up Oddish, trying his best to calm it down. He's really young and not used to battle. The small Pokemon sniffed as it was petted by its trainer. It's alright. Naruto said as he walked to Kyoji and extended his hand. Your passage was pretty tough. Thanks, your Froakie was really strong, I thought I had it with the type advantage. Kyoji replied sheepishly. Naruto chuckled and shook his head. I figured, but I've been training Kikrik to fight without water attacks yet. Naruto smirked. It's the best way to get him ready for times like this. Besides, if he had lost his growl it would have destroyed your Pokemon. The red-streaked twin said as the girls approached. You need more than just grass types. Rin said as she took Oddish and started petting it. And we need to help little Oddish get big and strong. Oddish. Oddish cheered happily from the attention. The girls giggled, except Kuretsuchi, at the little Pokemon. Well, thanks for the battle. Naruto said to the teens. What are you guys doing off the trail anyway? Probably the same thing you guys are, looking for wild Pokemon. Kyoji replied as he pulled out his Pokeball and returned Oddish. Yeah, but you guys are here so we'll leave you to train, maybe we'll run into you again before we leave the area. Rin said as she grabbed Kyoji and the teens began to leave the clearing. Well, that was interesting. Kuretsuchi said as they watched the teens leave. Good battle by the way. Well, Kikrik got a good workout, but Nidoran didn't really get any practice in. Naruto said as he looked down at Nidoran who had walked over to him. I've been wondering if you're going to name him and Magikarp like you did Hom and Kikrik. Kuretsuchi said as she squatted down and scratched him behind the ears. I've been thinking about it. Naruto said honestly. I now both will eventually be some of my main Pokemon, so I will keep them close. He squatted down next to Nidoran. Do you want a name, bud? Nido. He replied with a nod, he wanted to be different from the other Nidorans. Alright. Naruto chuckled out. How about Doku, because you're a poison type? You can do better than that. Kuretsuchi said in a deadpan, Nidoran nodding along. I cracked under pressure. Naruto whined as he poked his fingers together. Let's see, Naruto hummed in thought. Emperor. Bran. Nidoran said as it jumped into the air. Yeah, he's not full of himself. Kuretsuchi replied with a small giggle. Why not Kingu, after his final form? Dusan's Kingdra is already named that. Naruto answered before walking over to the lake. Alright Magikarp, let's get you a name. Carp. Magikarp replied happily as it splashed around. Alright Naruto said as he stroked his chin. Don't pull anything. Naruto's eye twitched to Kuretsuchi's comment but ignored her. Tsunami, because you'll become an unstoppable force. Naruto said with a grin. Magikarp. The fish Pokemon yelled before swimming in around in glee. Naruto and Kuretsuchi chuckled as they watched the scene. Say, weren't you going to do the dishes? Naruto asked as he pointed to the still dirty plates. Kuretsuchi looked over and let out a groan. Kuretsuchi let out a happy sigh as she laid out on a blanket soaking up some sun. Kakengan lay next to her, munching on a berry while also soaking up the sun with her. This is the life, huh, Kakengan? The pink-eyed girl said to her Pokemon. Aaron. The small creature said with a happy chirp. No problems, no worries, just relaxation and sunshine. Kuretsuchi said with another sigh right before getting hit by a blast of bubbles. Gah. She screamed and bolted upright. Sorry. Naruto yelled with a gulp. Kikrik didn't do it on purpose. The little frog Pokemon nodded and gave its best apologetic face. Kuretsuchi let out a growl but closed her eyes and took a deep breath to calm down. It's fine, but can't you train somewhere else? The clearing they were staying in wasn't that large and Kuretsuchi had found it almost impossible to lounge around while Naruto trained because each of his Pokemon were spread around it. Actually, I was thinking it was time to move on. Naruto replied as he scratched the back of his head. I've pretty much beaten all the wild Pokemon around here. And so the vacation ends. Kuretsuchi mumbled as she stood up and grabbed her blanket. So you want to go around or through Black Mountain? Wouldn't mind going through so I could grab a rock type. Naruto mused. It's actually faster too. Kuretsuchi said as she returned Kakengan to her Pokeball. The cave exit is right next to the south gate of Iowa. Sounds good. Naruto said with a nod. Alright guys, circle up, we're about to head out. All of Naruto's Pokemon ran over and he began returning them. So how far away is Black Mountain? Well, I don't really remember the map, but I would guess no more than an hour. The girl replied as she started to pack up her tent. Naruto nodded and started packing up his own gear. Do you think you're ready to face Gigi? Kuretsuchi asked curiously as the duo finished cleaning up the campsite. Well, Emperor and Kikrik are now level 12, while Hom is level 13. Naruto said as he pulled out his Pokédex. Tsunami is level 16, but I don't think he'll see any action. Not bad, though only Kikrik will have an edge. Kuretsuchi said after a second of thought. Actually, Emperor knows double kick so he could do some damage. Naruto replied, but he knew she was right and he needed to find another Pokemon. However, all the wild ones they had seen so far were not ones he wanted. Kuretsuchi rolled her eyes at the blonde. One move does not an edge give you. Yeah. Naruto replied with a wave of his hand, then slung his backpack on. She nags like Kasan. I'm just saying it's possible. Naruto commented as he walked next to Kuretsuchi. No, it's not. The girl said with an annoyed sigh. I'm sorry, I didn't know you were a doctor. Naruto replied. You can't replace your stomach with a milk tinks. She yelled at him, but the blonde kept ignoring her. We'll see. Naruto responded. But you'll be sorry when I'm eating hundreds of bowls of ramen a sitting. Kuretsuchi let out a sigh and shook her head, wondering how one person could be so obsessed with ramen. The duo had been walking for an hour now and had just made it to the base of the mountain range. Luckily there were several clearly marked paths for travelers to take and Kuretsuchi couldn't remember the last time someone got lost. What are those? Naruto asked as he looked off to the side. Kuretsuchi turned and looked past him. Over in the grass were 3 quadruped goat-like Pokemon with white faces and hooves but brown fur covering the rest of the body. They also had horns on the tops of their heads, 2 that faced opposite directions of each other and leafy green manes. Naruto pulled out his Pokédex and aimed it at one of them. Skiddo the Mount Pokemon. Ought to be one of the first Pokemon to live in harmony with humans. This Pokemon usually has a placid disposition. Skiddo huh? Naruto said as he looked up at the device. Best I've seen so far. Naruto snapped the Pokédex shut and pulled out 2 Pokeballs. Come on out. Emperor the Nidoran appeared just a few feet from the Skiddo, which all looked up from the grass. Han back him up. When the Growlithe appeared the 3 grass types froze knowing what type the Pokemon was. Han don't jump in unless Emperor is overwhelmed alright. Growlithe. Han barked and fell into a crouch, ready to attack. Emperor hit one of them with Poison Sting. Naruto ordered to his Pokemon. Do. Emperor said as he charged towards the trio of Skiddo, his horn charging with energy. The 3 grass types all started to jump to the side, but unfortunately the middle one didn't have the room and Emperor realized that. Nido, he yelled as he hit the Skiddo. Alright Emperor, focus on that one, scare off those other 2. Naruto ordered. Emperor double kick, member. Growlithe. Han roared as he shot out flames towards the 2 Skiddo. Both dodged the attacks but were quick to make their escape. Ran. Emperor called out as he ran forward and jumped at the Skiddo, his leg charging with energy. Even though it was poisoned, the Skiddo had the strength to jump out of the way, turning as it landed and shooting vines out from its mane. Ski. It called out as it launched an assault on Emperor. Emperor, look out. Naruto called out, but the Nidoran wasn't able to move fast enough and was hit by the whips. Nido. Emperor cried out as he was thrown back by the blow, but the small Pokemon quickly recovered. Alright Emperor, hit it with Peck. Naruto ordered as he saw the Nidoran recover. Nidoran. Emperor ran towards the Skiddo again. It attempted to attack him with its vines again, but the small poison type was ready this time and able to dodge them. Nido. It yelled as it stabbed the Skiddo with its horn. Do. The grass type Pokemon called out as it rolled backwards from the blow. Naruto grinned, hit it with double kick now that it's down. Emperor nodded as it ran at its opponent and leapt into the air. Nidoran. He yelled as he hit the Skiddo with its legs, making it roll back from the blows. Alright, go time. Naruto said as he slung his backpack around and pulled out a Pokeball, clicking it to enlarge it. Here we go. Reeling his arm back, Naruto let the ball fly, hitting the Skiddo on the side as it started to stand. The blonde held its breath as he watched ball shake once, twice, then ding. Yes. The blonde yelled with a jump. Kuretsuchi smiled as she watched the blonde run over to the Pokeball. Congratulations. She said as she started towards him. Now you have a grass type. Naruto smirked as he picked up the Pokeball before turning to Emperor. Great job, bud. He praised the Pokemon and gave him a scratch behind the ear. Ran. Emperor replied in a way Naruto could tell he meant was there a doubt. Yeah. Naruto chuckled out as he turned to Ham. You did a great job too. He scratched the Pokemon under his chin, something he found Ham loved. Growlithe. The puppy Pokemon purred as he enjoyed the scratch. Now then. Naruto said suddenly, causing Han to whine at the loss of his owner's hand and reached into his backpack. Where did I put that? Kuretsuchi watched as Naruto pulled out some of their leftover berries. What are you doing? She asked as Naruto put an orange berry in front of Emperor. Well, Emperor got hit but should be okay, so he gets an orange berry, but I'm looking for a pecha berry for Skiddo. Naruto replied as he continued to dig around his bag. Here we go. He said as he pulled out the small pink berry, then his new Pokemon's Pokeball. Oh? The Skiddo said as it materialized in the field again and glared when it saw Emperor and Naruto. Skiddo. Easy now. Naruto said as he held up his hands. Here, this will help with the poison. He tossed the berry down. See, I just want to help. The Skiddo carefully watched him and approached the berry, giving it a sniff before taking a small bite. When it didn't taste anything odd, it quickly scarfed down the rest of the berry. I bet you feel better now, don't you? Naruto said as he crouched down to be at the Pokemon's eye level. The Skiddo watched him and Naruto slowly held out his hand to pet it. I promise I won't, ouch. Naruto started to speak but was interrupted when the Skiddo bit his hand. Nido. Emperor called out and jumped between Naruto and Skiddo. Ran. He said angrily at the Skiddo. Calm down, Emperor, Naruto said as he flexed his injured hand to check for damage. It's fine, Skiddo is just nervous. The blonde teen then turned and smiled at the Pokemon. We'll just have to take this one step at a time. Skiddo huffed and turned its head. Ski. It said as it spotted Kuretsuchi and then hopped over to her. Skiddo. It said before sniffing her and then smiling. Do. Well, hello to you too. The pink-eyed girl replied with a smile and rubbed the Pokemon's side. Naruto's jaw dropped as he watched the sight. What the hell? The blonde said, drawing everyone's attention. How come I get bit and you get nuzzled? Must be a boy that can appreciate beauty. Kuretsuchi replied with a smug look. In reply, Naruto whipped out his Pokédex and aimed it back at Skiddo. Let's see, level 9, growth, tackle, vine whip and tail whip. Naruto muttered out. Female, see, it's not a crush. Naruto pointed out to Kuretsuchi. Well then, she just appreciates female company. Kuretsuchi replied without losing her smug look. Right now I have a Pokemon who won't listen to me. Naruto mumbled as he flipped his Pokédex closed. Oh, cheer up, you big baby. Kuretsuchi said with a roll of her eyes. You did just attack her. It'll take some time to gain trust. Naruto frowned and pointed at Hom. He didn't. Lied. He replied with a nod and smile. Whatever. Kuretsuchi sighed out. Can we get on the road, please? I want to sleep in an actual bed tonight. Naruto nodded and quickly recalled his 3 Pokemon before picking up his backpack. Yo, let's get going. Kuretsuchi sighed as Naruto started to walk. She could tell he was in a bad mood still. Right now I have to deal with a grumpy companion. She thought with a sigh and jogged up to Naruto, bumping his hip with hers. Hey, at least you have another Pokemon to use against the old geezer. Naruto chuckled. If I can get her to listen. Kuretsuchi groaned and turned to slap Naruto on the arm. Ow, what's with females and attacking me today? Well, if you weren't being such a moody little bitch I wouldn't have. She replied. Not every Pokemon you capture is going to love you the second you release it. I know. Naruto replied as he rubbed his arm. I just didn't think it would be so fast. Come on. Kuretsuchi said as she grabbed his arm. Let's get to Black Mountain and find you a nice rock type to fight, capture and instantly fall in love with. Naruto smirked as he let the girl semi-drag him down the path. If you insist. X X X X X X X X X X X X X X X X X X Black Mountain X X X X X X X X X X. Damn. Naruto said as he took in the mountain before them. It rose into the sky, breaking through the clouds above, and looking to either side Naruto couldn't spot the end of it. The name obviously came from the dark stone that made up the large majority of the mountain, though parts were light gray. Yay. Kuretsuchi said from his side. It's impressive no matter how many times you see it. So how long will it take to get through here? Naruto asked as they headed towards the entrance. 3 hours. His companion replied. Should get us there around 6 or so. Naruto nodded and hummed in thought. How are we going to see in there? There are lights along the main trail, but I have a flashlight if we want to explore a bit so you can catch some Pokemon. She replied as they got to the entrance. Looking around, Naruto saw a few peddlers selling food, equipment and safety gear. There was a decent amount of people moving through the area, not enough that Naruto believed they were making a killing, but they seemed to be doing alright. The entrance to the cave was a large cutout entranceway that had 2 onyx in an S shape holding up a long slab. The duo moved past all of the vendors, ignoring the cries of deals and sales going on, and reached the cave entrance. Any idea what Pokemon are in here? Naruto asked as they moved inside the cave. The way was cut out with plenty of room for people or Pokemon. Well, Zubits and Geodudes are pretty common if you're looking for them. Kuretsuchi started to explain. I know there are some onyx, but only deep in the caves, the same with errands. I wouldn't mind an errand. Naruto mused as he stopped and looked around the cave. He blinked a bit to let his eyes start to adjust to the lack of light. Yeah, they're a good choice, but like I said, you need to go deeper to find them. Kuretsuchi said as she waited for Naruto, having lived in Iowa. Her eyes adjusted quickly to the low light. Naruto nodded as his vision adjusted. Well, maybe after I beat your grandfather I'll swing back through. Kuretsuchi nodded absently as they progressed down the tunnel. She nodded absently as she listened to him. She didn't want to tell him that with the lights and foot traffic, even the Geodudes and Zubats avoid the usual paths. She figured if he thought he might get a fight, then he wouldn't turn back into a pouty little princess like earlier. So what's that mean? Naruto asked as he pointed up to a yellow sign with pictures of a mountainside with rocks breaking off it. That's a safety sign for possible avalanche areas. The teen girl answered as she looked around for more signs. Don't worry too much about those, they're everywhere as a precaution. Naruto nodded to her as he continued to look around. Cool. The blonde said as he looked around. So do they normally close off tunnels like that? Kuretsuchi cocked an eyebrow and turned to where Naruto was pointing to see some orange cones and a wooden gate blocking one of the tunnel entrances. No, they don't. She said as she walked over to the area and started inspecting the safety gear. What are you doing? Naruto asked as Kuretsuchi pushed the gate to the side, frowning when it moved easily. This should be bolted down. She replied. So no one will go exploring, plus they always put up a sign explaining what the danger and a contact number in case something happens. Naruto cocked an eyebrow at her. How do you know all that? My cousin works as a safety inspector for Iowa. The pink-eyed girl answered. She has me help out on her busy days. She then flipped her backpack around and dug out a white flashlight. Come on. What are we doing? Naruto asked, though he quickly followed after her. Something's going on and I want to know what. Kuretsuchi said over her shoulder as she kept moving and looked around the area. While not as trained as her mother, she knew some of the key things to look for, and so far she wasn't seeing anything to warrant a tunnel closing. So what exactly do we need to look for? Naruto asked as he followed the light. Kuretsuchi shrugged as she continued on. This tunnel looks fine, someone put out those signs, and I want to know why. The safari zone wasn't enough action for you? Naruto said with a chuckle only to freeze when Kuretsuchi spun around and glared at him. This is a serious matter, Naruto. The blonde gulped. It is my duty to investigate this as a member of the Ishii family. Naruto quickly nodded so not to bring about more of her wrath. Now come on. Kuretsuchi spun back around and started stomping down the tunnel. Naruto looed behind him, then back towards the retreating girl. Ah-sen is going to kill me. Naruto thought with a sigh before following after her. The duo continued down the tunnel for a half hour, occasionally looking down some of the side passes, but mostly following the main path. They were both curious why they had not seen or heard any Pokemon, Kuretsuchi informing Naruto that it was odd this far into the mountain. What's that? Kuretsuchi asked while pointing down the way before cutting off her light. With it gone they could see a glow coming from the end of the tunnel. No idea, come on. Naruto said quietly as he grabbed her hand and slowly made his way towards the light. They moved carefully since they couldn't see, but as they grew closer they started to hear talking and laughter. Moving to the wall, Naruto and Kuretsuchi slowly looked over a rock formation and Barley stifled a gasp. They were looking into a large open cavern with spotlights all around it. What surprised them, however, was that the people walking around were all Team Sound members. To the left of the cavern was a large stack of cages, each holding different kinds of Pokemon. Damn, them again. Kuretsuchi said. Naruto felt her squeeze his hand as she spoke and figured she was a bit afraid after the last run-in. What do we do? Naruto whispered as he counted the men in the cavern. There's only 4 that I can tell, but if they have those cursed Pokemon we're in trouble. Kuretsuchi nodded as she looked around and thought. Her first instinct was to run as fast as she could to Iowa and tell her family. However, if they did that she knew it would still be a couple hours. And it looks like they're starting to pack up everything. I don't know. She finally whispered back to Naruto. The blonde nodded and started looking around the room again before an idea struck him. Moving back behind the rocks, Naruto pulled off his backpack and orange jacket, then pulled a small back case out of his backpack. What are you doing? Kuretsuchi whispered with surprise as she watched him. I've got a crazy idea. Naruto informed her as he moved back over the rocks. See, we may not be able to fight them, but if I can sneak over to those cages and free the Pokemon they can fight back on their own. Kuretsuchi went wide-eyed and looked over to the cages. There was a large amount of them. How are you going to get over there unseen? I've been learning to sneak around all my life. Naruto informed her. Trust me, I'll be fine. Before she could protest, Naruto crawled over the rock and slid down the side. The dark-haired girl let out a groan as she watched the blonde move to the wall and slowly make his way towards the cages. She remembered his actions from the hospital when they first meet and even now had to admit he was doing well. She also contributed it to the fact all the lights were pointing into the cavern and casting shadows along the walls. While Naruto looked calm on the outside, he was panicking on the inside. Stupid, stupid, stupid. Ka-san is going to kill me, and then Ba-chan will bring me back to life and kill me herself. Naruto thought to himself as he quickly sprinted to a large boulder and hid behind it. He fingered Kikrik's pokeball before moving to the shadowed wall and slinking around it. He let out a breath as he made it behind the stacks of cages. He was out of sight now, but had to be careful not to cause the wild Pokemon. Moving to the nearest cage, he noticed the Geodude inside turn to him. Naruto froze and quickly put his finger to his lips for silence. Human and Pokemon locked eyes for several seconds before the Geodude nodded and turned back towards the Team Sound members. Naruto smiled and moved over to the lock. For the first time he was happy Jiraiya had taught him to pick locks. Of course the old pervert had done it so the blonde could get into locked bathhouses and female locker rooms, but it was good he had the skill. Carefully he unzipped his toolkit and then began to work on the lock. The Geodude watched as Naruto worked. When he heard the click, Naruto smiled and quickly pulled the lock off and opened the door. "Alright, I'm going to get the others. When I get a couple of you free, can you guys distract them?" He pointed towards the Team Sound grunts. "So I can free the others?" "Geo." The rock-type Pokemon said with a nod. Naruto grinned and moved to the next cage. This pattern continued for several minutes. The Geodude would hush the wild Pokemon while Naruto freed them, then they would move to the next cage. Amongst them were several Geodudes and Zubats, with the occasional Aaron mixed in. "Alright gang," Naruto said as he turned to the large group behind him. "The rest of the cages are in sight. I need you guys to distract them while I free the others." "Geo." "Aaron." "That." The group surged forward around the cages, and Naruto started to chuckle as he heard the shouts from Team Sound. "What the hell? How did they get out?" "At the cursed Pokemon." When the blonde heard that, he burst into motion and began to free the other Pokemon. He worked slower with the sounds of battle distracting him, but still made a good pace. "Naruto." The blonde looked up and saw Kuritsuchi running over to him with Kakengan at her side. "What are you doing here?" Naruto shouted as he abandoned the lock. "Like hell I'm going to let you do this on your own," she said as she turned to the fighting. "I'll watch your back, you keep freeing the Pokemon." Deciding it would be easier not to argue, Naruto went back to work. Kuritsuchi smirked at him before focusing on Team Sound. Each man only had one Pokemon, and all of them were water types, 2 Squirtles, a Staryu and a small orange weasel-like Pokemon she had never seen before. Like the ones from the Safari Zone, each had thick black lines on them, but different shapes along them. "Retreat." One of the grunts yelled as his Squirtle was hit by several Geodudes. "Without any Pokemon." Another yelled. "Orochimaru-sama will kill us." "If he doesn't, they will," cried another grunt before he dropped his Pokeball and ran, abandoning his Pokemon. The 3 others looked around the group of wild Pokemon and quickly followed suit. Kuritsuchi smiled as she watched the Pokemon cheer. "Slow down, Blondie, the grunts are gone," she said as she turned to Naruto. The blonde nodded but continued with his work, not noticing that the wild Pokemon had gathered to watch him free their friends. It took another 20 minutes, but soon all of the Pokemon were free and heading off into the caves. "Mission accomplished," Naruto said with a smirk. One Kuritsuchi mirrored. "Geo." The teens turned to see a Geodude. Naruto guessed the first one he freed, pointing to a tent. "Something in there?" Naruto asked. Getting a nod from the Pokemon, he headed that way. The tent was large and obviously held all 4 of the men in it. Pulling the flap back, Naruto's eyes widened at the cage inside. The Pokemon inside looked like a sun, orange circular body with 8 yellow rock spikes coming off of it. It had no visible mouth, but had 2 red eyes that looked almost closed with yellow circles around them. "The Solrock," Kuritsuchi exclaimed when she moved around Naruto. "I had no idea any were here." She turned and noticed Naruto was surprised as well. "Well, free him." Naruto broke out of his stupor and moved to the cage. He was surprised to see a rare Pokemon in a place like this. Not only that, but a rare he wanted to capture himself, but he knew this wasn't the time to catch a Pokemon. The Solrock floated closer to the cage door as Naruto worked on it. The blonde looked up as it approached, and suddenly its eyes glowed. Kuritsuchi gasped as she saw the Solrock's eyes glow, and then Naruto's. It lasted only a few seconds, but when the glowing died, the two stared at each other for a few seconds. She moved forward and put a hand on his shoulder. "Naruto." "I'm okay." The blonde replied with a shake of his head before looking up at her. "What just happened?" "I think he used Psychic on you," the girl answered. "Didn't you notice?" Naruto shook his head. "Not really, when I looked up I kind of blanked out and then you were shaking my shoulder." "Huh?" Kuritsuchi replied. She wasn't sure what to say, but wondered what happened. Naruto wondered what had happened as well, but shook it off. He would worry about it later. Going back to the lock, he finished quickly and pulled the door open. "There you go, Solrock, free to go." The Pokemon floated out of the cage and looked at Naruto, then Kuritsuchi, and finally the Geodude. "Solrock rock." "You Geodude." The rock Pokemon replied with a nod. It then turned and gave Naruto a thumbs up. "Geo," it said before jumping out of the tent. "Right." Kuretsuchi said after watching the scene. Well, you ready to head out? Seeing as they had freed everyone, she wanted to get home and tell her grandfather about what had happened. Yeah? Naruto replied before turning to the Solrock. Alright Solrock, you can head on home now and don't worry, we'll make sure they don't come back. The Pokemon simply stared at Naruto. The blonde looked at his companion who gave him a shrug. Scratching his head, Naruto decided to just leave. He headed out of the tent towards where he left his things with Kuretsuchi, only to turn back and see the Solrock following them. He hummed and kept walking until he got to his gear. He looked up and saw the Pokemon floating in place in front of him. Do you think it wants to go with us? Kuretsuchi asked as she watched the Pokemon. Why though? Naruto asked as he zipped up his jacket. Maybe cause you saved him. She replied, then snapped her fingers. It had to involve when he used Psychic. Naruto's eyes widened and he looked at the Pokemon. Is that true? Do you want to come with us because of whatever you did? Soul. It replied while floating up and down like it was nodding. Naruto grinned as he opened his bag and reached inside for a Pokeball before clicking it and tossing it at the dual-type Pokemon. The ball sucked the Solrock in and Naruto grinned as it wiggled a few times then dinged. Yes, another one down. Naruto cheered before picking up the ball. Another one? Kuretsuchi asked with a small glare. While she had gotten to know Naruto, his wording was sending up alarms. Yeah, I'm trying to capture all the orange Pokemon in the elemental region. The blonde replied as he pulled out his notebook. See, I've already gotten a Growlithe and now Solrock, which was the hardest one. Kuretsuchi cocked an eyebrow and to the notebook for Naruto. Like Shino, she couldn't believe there was a list of Pokemon that were all found in the elemental region, that all were primarily orange in color. Seriously? She asked as she snapped the notebook shut. Orange is awesome. Naruto said evenly as he snatched the notebook back and put it away. Well, congrats, you caught that Pokemon that will instantly love you. The pink-eyed girl said in reply, causing both to chuckle some. What are you going to name him? How do you know it's a him? Naruto asked as he released Solrock and got out his Pokédex. Actually, Solrock and Lunatons are genderless. Kuretsuchi answered. Being a guy, I just figured you would call him a he. Naruto started to open his mouth but stopped and nodded his head in agreement. Agreed, so. Naruto said as he pointed his Pokédex. Solrock, the meteorite Pokemon. Solar energy is this Pokemon's source of power. When it spins, its body will shine. This Pokemon is registered to Naruto Namikaze of Konoha. I'm only level 6, must be pretty young. Naruto said as he looked at the screen. Knows Confusion, Harden, Rock Throw, Tackle, Fire Spin and Psychic. I thought Psychic was usually a high-level move. Kuretsuchi said from over his shoulder. Ino says most Psychic types actually know that right off the bat, but it won't be as powerful until they mature. Naruto answered as he put away the Pokédex. Ino? Kuretsuchi asked. She blinked in surprise at the tightness in his stomach at hearing the girl's name. Ino Yamanaka, her family breed Psychic types. Naruto answered as he rubbed his chin. Now what to name you, Not Tayo. Kuretsuchi said with a grin, earning a glare from the blonde. I was thinking Hikari. Naruto replied. What do you think of the name? He asked the rock Psychic type. Solrock. The Pokemon replied again, floating up and down. Hikari it is then. Naruto said with a smile before returning the Pokemon. So that makes 6, doesn't it? Kuretsuchi asked as she mentally counted. So anymore I catch I have to start strategizing who I'm going to have with me. The blonde replied as he realized she was right. Well, let's go, I need to talk to Gigi and Kasan about all of this. Kuretsuchi said as she turned and started back towards the main tunnel. Naruto looked down at his Pokeballs and grinned at them. He still needed to do a bit of training, but he was ready for his first gym battle. What if Naruto starts his journey from Pokemon end here, and thanks for watching my video till the end.